every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols.
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimilla, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn. I hope we're going out into the real world. I don't know. I can't see it on my screen. I'm completely and utterly in the dark right now. Uh-oh. Is it working? Is it not working? We'll find out. Hopefully the chat gang has moved over to our new platform here on YouTube. It's been a long time coming. I know everybody's been complaining about our this and that and the other, and we literally, the reason we didn't go on YouTube before was because of the whole not being able to have sponsors. And we kind of did it before, and then later on when we realized we couldn't have sponsors unless we took their 45 cents for every 5,000 videos you show, then I was like, nah, we'll do that. But we've got figured it out, so we still keep our sponsors. We're not making a dime off YouTube, so that's fine. But we can use their platform way more user-friendly. Any complaints out there that I've seen has been stuff like you can't listen to the show without closing your things, and it took me 3 seconds to find a hack online. So it's not hard. There's always a way around this stuff. It's the cannabis way, my friend. We'll always none of us want to pay for movies. None of us want to pay for nothing. We don't want to do nothing. We just want it to be work. And so hopefully this will work better than the last one long term. Though live stream was good, had its moments, but for the most part, I'd rather work on a platform that everybody's used to. And if you're not used to YouTube, then you're obviously not very up to date with what's going on. So pretty much looking forward to this new platform. On the show today, we got Nat from Humboldt Nutrients coming on in about 10 minutes or so. And we got Cheesecake Lady in the studio. She's coming through. She just came from Cap Hill, I believe, and she's pissed off. Shit's getting crazy. The thing is, Colorado is literally like, if you want to watch what legalization does to your local situation and where you are, then either your medical situation, if you already have one, and or the corporatization of cannabis. Just look to Colorado. You'll see many things that just slap you in the face, like, really? So now we're not allowed to grow anymore? Or we're not allowed to, they're still letting you grow a little bit, but realistically, taking away growing rights, not giving us places to smoke, criminalizing bud tenders here for doing what they are legally allowed to do just because they haven't written their laws properly. It's just like a lot of crazy shit. And I'm sure when Cheesecake comes in, when Miss Jessica LaRue, I should call her, not just Cheesecake Lady, but Jessica. When she's on the hill, I guess she can't be called. You can't call like, hi, I'm Cheesecake Lady. Well, maybe she does. I don't know. But either way, she's going to tell us some more stuff, which I've already heard some details, and it sounds even more ridiculous, taking away more rights of people who are in the industry here. On top of that, just not progressing, you know what I mean? So, great. Anyway, we'll talk about that. And then, obviously, if you guys want to call in, it's 720-310-8237. You can always call in anytime. And what else, Mr. M? Oh, we don't have no KTI today. He was stuck in the mountains. He said it was getting some snow and some...
Got the weather going on up there, so he wasn't able to make it down.
We got a little jibber jabber going on. What's going on there? Was that? Oh, that's just on my mic. That's this. Okay. I got it. Okay. Quality stuff when you have to shake wires to make it work. Shake the wire. So yeah, we just got MTI in the studio right now. How was your week?
Good,
These weeks
man.
go by quick, don't they?
Oh yeah. It seems like we just had the party.
I know, right?
And yeah.
Boom.
So we're already back here. No, I've been stressing out about getting this thing online today. So.
Yeah, we gave you a lot of warning as usual.
Yeah.
We gave MTI as much warning as we gave our listeners.
Yesterday about
like,
noon.
Hey, you know what? We're going to change over to YouTube now. I was like, okay, let's do it. So, thank you for doing that, and also thank you, listeners, for making the leap, and Yeah, you're going to see that 404 page a lot. And a lot of people are going to be hitting that page going like, what happened? Oh, I heard you guys were gone. It's like, no. But at the same time, I think most people are already, most people don't listen to us live anyway. Like, I mean, there's the dedicated guys do, of course. But for the most part, a lot of people listen to it after.
And there's a lot of people that check it out afterwards on YouTube too. So I think
so it shouldn't be
get a couple of those people now as well.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a big deal. You can also go to SoundCloud if you don't need to see us, which you pretty much nobody really does. I don't think. There's hardly been an episode where you've had to see what's going on, right? I mean, so you can always go to SoundCloud, pick up the stuff there, and obviously iTunes is the best since you can listen to it offline. That's always nice. Just download them all. What a week it's been, huh? Jesus Christ. I'm not, like, luckily this is not a political show. Otherwise, we just would be up to our ears in ridiculousness right now. But
yeah,
and the crazy thing is I don't want to talk about anything too much because what I've noticed is it's so crazy now. Like the speed which you hear something, and if it's like that's so 4 hours ago. You know what I mean? Like people aren't even taking it in anymore. It's like you're just consuming so much bullshit on a daily that you just sort of stopped. We're all like our bullshit levels are maxed out, and it's just like kind of comes and deflects off of you, and you're just like, oh, really? He said that? Oh, okay. Oh, really? That's what happened? Oh, whatever. It's like, it's nuts, but kind of feels like it's coming to a boil, doesn't it? And then the whole sessions thing, of course, to add, to the whole bullshit of it all, everything, we're getting slapped in the face with all this bullshit, and then all of a sudden we get some guy stuck in the fucking Reefer Madness days and/or the 80s, you know what I mean? Just like in his whole green merchant mentality and his fucking just asinine statements. And that other guy, did you hear there was like there was some other dude talking full-on racist bullshit about black people not being able to smoke cannabis because of their genetic makeup. I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Whoa, where is that at? Who is that?
It's like a congressman or something. It's some guy who is basically a Trumper who's just spouting some absolute and utter garbage. You know what I mean? You're just like, really, this is your stance on the whole thing. You know what I mean? And it was straight up Reefer Madness 2018. You know what I mean? You were just like, wow, it's getting nuts. But anyway, the reality is it's like, what are you laughing at? Someone's
making fun of you. They said Adam's hair to beard ratio is 1-to-1.
Oh, I know. Don't believe me. Believe me, I am 100% aware of how ridiculous I look too right now. I'm like hilarious. I'm like a Muppet. I got the Muppet hair.
That was Spring Heel.
And then got the fucking. I trimmed the beard. Put it that way. I literally had to trim the beard back a bit because it was getting even more out of control. I'll get a haircut soon. And the funny part is at this building we're in right here, there's at least 8 or 9 hair salons.
Like salon type
the whole neck below us is nothing but hair salons. And I walk past them, and I think it's kind of funny. As I walk past them, they're like, oh my God, that's like the whale right there. That's the guy we need. All day, an all-day project.
Yup.
Makeover. Anyway, no, that's cool. Thanks for noticing, bro. So let's really quickly go through our, not quickly, let's start the show off, I should say, with our beautiful sponsors who help make everything happen and keep the lights burning and the program running and everybody happening. We will start the soiree with our buddies from New Millennium. New Millennium Nutrients, designed for real. I mean, the thing that's nice about these guys is that this is a great. I mean, obviously, if you're a small grower at home or 5, 10 lights, whatever, it's a great program. But if you're on a larger scale, it's even better, just because it's kind of what it's geared towards, and it's a very versatile line. The idea also, like I was kind of always saying on the show, is that it's based on seasons, which makes it kind of user friendly in that sense, and very effective products. And the thing is, like, a lot of times it's just about the timing and using the products at the right moment more than the amounts, almost, because for a lot of times it's nominal. You need a very small amount. You trigger the plant at that right moment, and that's all it needs. It doesn't need to be saturated with something for the entire cycle. And some nutrients do that. Some nutrients just kind of blanket them down with everything and hope the plant takes up what it can take up. But great line, and a couple new products that they just put out, which is the carbonara, and what's the other one? Jeez, can't remember now. Got to get him on the show, dude.
Oh, Decision.
No, Decision's been around forever.
There's the carbonara.
Something else. Oh, it was something. Who knows? Definitely carbonara.
There's the Winter Frost, the PK.
Winter Frost is a great product also. I just got to use some, which is it's my favorite product to use.
Oh, the Ruby Fulvig.
No, it's not.
No?
Ruby Fulvig's been around forever. Anyway,
Okay.
Whatever. We'll get him on the show and get some new updates. But you go to newmillenniumnutrients.com, check out their website. It's very easy, user friendly. You can use a calculator, figure out what you need for your space, and or store finder. See if they're in your area. I got some friends in Rhode Island actually growing with that are killing it. I mean, to the point where I saw some photos and I was just like, holy shit, dude. Like, what the fuck is that? And then he's like, oh, that's one of yours. And I was like, oh, then it's even better. It makes it even nice. There was a Coal Creek Kush that they were growing from seed that was just phenomenal. It's a huge yield. I was amazed. So check them out online. And then if you're online and you want to go jump over to our other friends, you can go see I Love Incredibles. Their site's getting better and better every time. Every time we pull it up, it's a whole new, seems like they've added a whole bunch of new stuff to it.
Yeah.
They've actually added a whole bunch of new things to their line. They've got a whole new wellness line now, bath salts. Get 'em on.
That's the new Skype.
That's the new Skype sound. Hey, is that Nate there?
Hello.
Hey, we're just finishing our. Give me like 2 minutes while I finish my my sponsors, and then we'll get you on the line there. So cool. And so
Sounds good.
Sounds good. So our friends over at Incredibles, to check out their new wellness products, check out all of their CBD lines, and you can pick them up in literally hundreds of stores here in Colorado, and you can also get them now in California, Nevada, soon in was it Massachusetts and Puerto Rico and Oregon? Was those are the next three popping up or something like that? I believe. It's okay.
Sorry.
Never mind. I saw you were mesmerized by the chat. Gang's got them going. You go to iloveincredibles.com, check that website out, and guaranteed, especially also with their extracts they have in all their products, their extracts, edibles, everything is grown on site, in-house. And if you've ever walked through the kind of garden where you're just like, this is the kind of garden you walk through and you would love to smoke everything in there, but at the end of the day, this is all going into edibles and extracts. So it's really top notch. And buddies over at Build a Soil, Jeremy, my God, we have to get him on the show real soon too, because it's been a long ass time. Jeremy is a premier spot for hard to find items in the organic world, and basically if you look at all the stuff on their site at buildasoil.com, if you take a look, you'll pretty much see that maybe a few items you can get at a grow shop, but for the most part, everything he has in there is unique. Hard to find and tested through and through. That's one thing. Jeremy's also super knowledgeable, so if you give him a call, he can fill you in on any product that he's got out there. He can help you out if you have any issues along the way. Sometimes it's a big step for people. They're moving over. They've been growing, in one direction their entire life, and then someone has to tell them kind of to flip the script. And there's some growing pains sometimes go along with that, but these guys can help you through all those, which that's what it's all about. Service, my friend. You want to work with people that give you good service. You go to buildasoil.com, check them out online, or you can go to 855-877-SOIL, call them direct, talk to a human, say what up. Got some things going on. If you're on the East Coast and you want to, it doesn't matter, you can call him anytime, but Mr. Ron Wallace out in Rhode Island, he's a World record holding pumpkin grower, and contributed genetics to a squash wins. It wasn't his particular grow, but his genetics. And also, he'll teach you how to grow 10-pound tomatoes. He's that guy. You remember him when you were a kid too. Wasn't the same guy, but there's always that one guy who just kills it, no matter what he touches. And it all starts in the rhizosphere and the root zone, and that's what he kind of focuses on. If you can come check him out, and I'm going to let you take it away, because you know me, I can never remember how to say. I never remember nothing. I'm always like, what? Wow.
WallaceWow.com.
Too many W's. WallaceWow.com. And you can tell him, if you do contact him and you want some products, just tell him you came from the Adam Dunn Show. And pretty much with all these guys, just you tell them that you came from us. There's no real codes on anything right now, any giveaways in particular, but it's all personal stuff. So if you tell them you came from the show, I'm sure they'll give you a little extra bonus. I'm not going to guarantee, but usually do. And the guys who always give bonuses to everybody, because that's the way they kind of are our next and last sponsors. Mr. Seed's here now. Seed's here now. Taking Bitcoin now, finally. Jesus Christ, you should have been taking Bitcoin the last 2 years. You've been killing it right now. But they are taking Bitcoin. So if you want to, every time you make a little bit on the come up, you just dump it into Seeds. It'd be a guaranteed win, I'd say. You can go to seedsherenow.com, check out 35 of the top American breeders under one roof, through one awesome service, which guarantees all their products. So if you have a problem, you just get back to them, boom, they'll replace them. Reasonable, of course, please. And he's also got seedaholics.com, where you can check out all these one-offs, last packs, charities, which all go 100% to the charity itself, and also lots of good specials. We'll have James on in a little bit, and he'll rattle off his incredible deals. But for the most part, always good deals and guaranteed service and original breeders and original packs, which is important stuff. And you get what you order, which is important too, because a lot of times people just give you the top, whatever. Give me your top 3, and maybe you'll get one of them. That's not what you want. And right now, their latest breeder in the house is our guest on the show today, Humboldt Seed Company, and Nate, who has been on the line patiently, is with us. Hey, Nate. How's it going?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. Or it's a Nat, sorry. So,
yeah, it's short for Nathaniel Pennington.
Gotcha.
My folks always called me Nat.
Nat, I like it. Yeah, sorry, not Nate. Nat. And I was saying earlier, Nats. That's the one thing in this industry somehow those things are the strong. Like, even though we get rid of all these really incredibly difficult bugs, gnats just seem to, they always make it through, don't they? Those little fuckers. They somehow do.
Yeah, they're not the worst, though.
No, exactly. That's why we're all like, they're cool. They're cool. Leave them alone. And then all this
russet mites.
Oh, my God. Don't even
They've been doing a number on Humboldt the last couple of years, that's for sure.
Fuck, everywhere. Yeah, out here they've been, the problem with them is that it's the lack of people understanding what they have when they first get it, and then it just gets a hold way before anybody ever has a chance. When they ask you to come over and look and see what's wrong, and you walk in and you're like, dude, you don't even want to go in and, that's it. You're done. You're like, you've seen one leaf and you're pretty much already over it. You're like, I know what you got, and I'm out of here. You know what I mean? It's bad.
That's
news.
Classic. That happened to me, and I know we probably want to do introductions, but that just happened to me a few months ago in Jamaica, and I had really hoped. I was kind of doing a farm tour. I was there with Phyllis Bioscience. We were looking for some really unique varieties, and we went to this incredible farm where, I really felt like the people there were doing it for all the right reasons, medicine, science, trying to help their community. And they took me into the greenhouse area, and they're like, we're having this problem with something that they were calling it like jury curl, or they thought it was a fungus anyways. And it was just like that. I took one look at it and I was like, oh no.
That's, and that's because somebody brought clones down there, obviously, and they fucked it up, because I'm sure there was none down there before. Otherwise we would have heard about them 100 years ago, but it's,
you would think
it's such a horrible, it's crazy too, because it's one of those, like, my friend told me about him in California, 2007 or 6 or something like that, and he was like one of the first guys to just try to scratch his head on it, like, what the fuck are these things? You know what I mean? He couldn't, and when he explained them to me, I didn't believe him. You know what I mean? I was like, he's like, oh, dude, I finally figured it out. And then he was like the first guy running around, bearer of bad news to everybody, like, hey, guess what you got? Guess what you got? Because he sort of was there at the beginning. It's weird how it definitely is like kind of came out of nowhere, which is weird because we're so used to thinking, we know them all, but it just shows you that this whole game can get changed in a heartbeat,
It sure can, yeah. And, I think, hats off to seeds and, I mean, I think that it's probably stuff like this has happened in every other agricultural industry.
Yeah.
And, it's always nice to be able to sort of start over with some fresh genetics.
Well, that was the scariest part about
worry.
russets, though, is that if you're a breeder, it got super gnarly because you're like, oh my God, they fucking don't stop. They're like Terminators deals, where they just don't stop. They're like, oh, well, the plant's dead. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I'm still here, and they're still doing damage on like dried weed and stuff. Like they're still munching out, and you're like, oh my God, they're just taking the integrity out of the plant after the fact, which is that's to me the most scary.
Well, and we started, so I had experiences with them, and like you said, as a breeder, you're also always trying to, get new, different things to sort of play and experiment and research, and so you're likely to potentially, contract some.
Well, yeah,
infestation of.
Imagine when people don't know it, and they got the weed with them, and the things are still alive, and they've just moved into a new garden, and you're just like, oh. These little fuckers are just incredible. I mean, that's the crazy part. Because back in the day, we were scared of spider mites, and now I'm like, spider mites are like herpes, or like wouldn't even be like herpes. They'd be more like gonorrhea or something, and then fucking russet mites are just AIDS. You know what I mean? You're just like, no, that's it, we're fucked. You know what I mean? Whereas you're just like, and then you're like, really? Oh, gonorrhea? That's cool. I could deal with that, bro. It's like it's not a big deal anymore because it's just a shot away. Or something.
This is no quick trip to the doctor. This is like, you're freaking quarantined in the hospital for a while with
100%.
The russet mites.
100%. And I mean,
so like we started, I did a bunch of research because I was like, is there any way that, these things could ever be passed through a seed that's been, I mean, people do different degrees of sort of like cleaning the seeds when they're preparing the plant or whatever, if they're selling them or if they're sharing them. And so I figured, I did a ton of research. I kind of experimented with all different treatments and stuff. And we eventually kind of settled on, something that like 110% would get rid of any kind of little hitchhiker that could possibly, travel around on a seed. And then because, we were sort of wiping the slate clean as far as the sort of like nano microscopic level of biological life on the hull of the seed, kind of figured out a way of kind of just like very lightly reintroducing like beneficial bacteria and mycorrhizae. So anyways,
is that in store? Is that in store? You're just talking about when you're actually putting them in the ground, or when you're talking about like actual storage and things? Because that's kind of where,
for storage. Okay. So, we just started to immediately treat them and then store them with this beneficial.
That way, they're kind of like they're full at that point with the bennies and not
exactly
not
like all of the, because I just don't we figured out, all right, here's how you can clean them to the point where there's absolutely no life, no eggs, there's no possibility that anything could ever, transfer into, the next stage of the game.
Sure.
And then we just wanted to kind of breathe some life back in. So we do it in a very, very light inoculant with some mycorrhizae and beneficial stuff, but it's
nice. All right,
just to kind of have something, that's living, because they are naturally, like, even the outside of the seed, like, it has sort of a life of its own, and
100%.
Make sure that there's no, like little buggers or harmful botrytis,
Well, yeah, and then like
stuff.
It depends a lot on how people store your stuff. Like, I think when I'm, for sure when I'm in sort of phase one, there's a ton of like bits and pieces of leaf material and stuff because it hasn't been actually separated into, into the 1,000 packs or whatever, just kind of like bulk. And I like to keep them, personally, I like to keep them kind of like less handled at first because of the fact that it's like, you can overdo it if you're trying to like get every single husk off right out of the gate and then moving them around and shifting them here and there, and then they end up, it's kind of like, you kind of want them to be a little bit cleaner and stuff. And so for me, a lot of times I just keep them in bulk with a bit of leaf material, but then that kind of gives you I mean, they're in the fridge and everything like that, but at the same time, if you get down at microscopic level, definitely could harbor all sorts of stuff. But I also think it's kind of naturally in its own little protective thing too. The more you expose it, it's almost like an egg. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like it's got a certain amount of handling before it gets. It's better if it just sits there.
Yeah,
it'll last a lot longer.
No, I've done that. Like that's been the policy for years and years. Because it kind of provides a buffer for let's just say like even humidity level or whatever, temperature fluctuations and stuff, like having a little bit of that organic material still in there.
It literally is like a desiccant. It's almost like a little desiccant in itself, It's like
exactly. You're totally right. But then no, I'm talking like literally right as they move from, like that kind of a scenario into sort of this prep for either, prep for planting or prep for
packaging,
going to a store or going somewhere like that. We do this whole little, we just call it disinfection and inoculation. So it's sort of like,
well, let's
last minute prep.
Since both of us got all excited and went straight into the fucking meat and the potatoes, let's go a little bit to the beginning of what your career as far as this industry goes, and because you were a Humboldt native or?
I moved here when I was 18 years old, from like New York and Philly, really. And I just kind of beelined it out here and landed out here. And then, of course I started growing not too long thereafter. Had my lovely daughter, who's my pride and joy, 19 years old right now. And so she's been with me the whole way, and probably should have put her on the show too. She knows a lot. But anyways, so also in breeding, that I started right away. So like 1999 actually was the first time I made a cross.
Okay.
And
what was your starting material then? Was it from like clones that you had, like sort of exclusive clones, or was it seeds that you kind of? It was
the Matanuska Mist was what I got my hands on. It was a clone, and then I had just literally like some super old timer Humboldt strains that just kind of came down out of the hills. That
you got when you were there, after you got there.
Yeah, so like I had a sort of a mentor. Because I did a bunch of fisheries biology and did a lot of work. Eventually it evolved into genetic research and salmon and, real deep salmon science and doing river restoration projects and stuff like that. But one of my mentors in both cannabis and that had some strains that he had been keeping alive. So he sort of took me under his wing a little bit, and I started making crosses with Salmon Creek Big Bud was one that was going around back in the day. And not a new skin.
I actually used that in Heavy Duty Fruity, so it's kind of funny. It's one of the
awesome.
Clones that made it over to Amsterdam, because people would always drop.
Yep, of course, yeah.
The Salmon Creek Big Bud was one of them.
Sneaking clones on airplanes
that's about this stuff. That was like a little earlier. It was about 96 or something like that, or 95, 96, something like that. But yeah, that was one of the Oregon. Basically, I'd get from Oregon and Cali guys rolling in with stuff, and it was just like, it was fun because they wouldn't waste their time stuffing it down their pants if it wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? It was like, this is
exactly.
Literally come off the plane, like kind of like walking weird. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is so funny.
That's exactly, yep. So then I moved out here in '96 to Humboldt, and then really started like, okay, this is a thing, and I have sort of a business when I was sort of supplying the neighborhood, and it kind of grew, and eventually, people would come back, in mass every January, every February, and say, hey, can I get the seeds again? And they would always offer money, and but I never wanted money for it or anything like that. I just felt like it was sort of like, hey, I'm doing it for myself because I'm interested and I want to have. But sooner or later, it became such a thing, so many people, that it was like, okay, this is consuming so much of my time. I guess it's time for me to start, accepting some compensation. And that was kind of right around the time we started. I went to the county and got the name Humboldt Seed Company and did stuff like that, and sort of officialized it. But then really didn't feel comfortable because, I was really, really deeply involved in river restoration and salmon research and science, and constantly was having to. We did this big undam the Klamath effort that ended up, being pretty successful, and we'll be removing these dams and restoring the river in 2020. And so that effort sort of made it so that I had to, meet with Schwarzenegger's aides and Kitzhaber and, just all the different governors and sometimes the federal officials. And that's, a big reason why I wasn't really doing a huge amount of promotion around Humboldt Seed Company in the, from 2010 to right around that time was when we were really doing it. And so I also was doing all this genetic studies at UC Davis, or helping really to figure out the differences in the runs of salmon, and, with the goal of specifically, trying to fix this river, this massive river that flows through Humboldt County, kind of on the edge. And, that really kind of gave me a great inroad for understanding genetics and how you can apply population genomics to cannabis. And so it was sort of a natural way to quickly understand what the kind of stuff that Phyllis Bioscience is trying to do, and I kind of really spoke that language and understood how important that stuff is, and especially preserving some of the really unique cultivars, because it's so similar to preserving unique wildlife, where once it's lost, it can be very, very hard for it to re-evolve, or for you to, even with
and you can also see, I guess, when you see invasive sort of species is comparative to somebody coming in with a bunch of autoflowers and into Jamaica and fucking up that whole, because I'm sure Jamaica must have been a big dog's breakfast of bullshit, really, right? Because there's hardly anything that hasn't been infected there with somebody else growing something like that from Holland or from. So there's nothing really essentially Jamaican left, is there?
No, my fiance. My partner here wants to say hi. She apparently knows you from back in the day, but yeah.
Okay, for sure. She can
Jamaica was amazing, and you're absolutely right. It was hard to see in Negril, where there's a bunch of influence. We were like, we're looking for the real Jamaican, the best Jamaican, the old Jamaican, and people would be like, here's some sour diesel. This is the best. And I'm like, no, that's not.
Exactly. No, I know.
But, I mean, that is great. It looks great, and you did a great job. But we're looking for the lamb's bread and the really original stuff that maybe came over from the Ganges, because that was apparently where the the name ganja came from. And those sort of endemic, kind of native strains, or at least that, they've become somewhat endemic, native, or original. I think those are incredibly valuable, and there's a lot of attention being given to them. So I think I support that a lot. And
well, was also weird. What came out, which was kind of interesting, because nobody really planned it and nobody just wasn't really looking for it at the time. But years ago, there was a study that I read that was talking about all these Jamaican strains that were super high in CBD, and it kind of made sense when you looked at all the high CBD strains that are out there, that are these Jamaican-based ones. And it seemed like anything that was maybe native would have been leaning on that side just because of the medicinal quality, and they recognized it on their own. You know what I mean? There was they kind of just picked up on that part. So you got these stuff that wasn't really high THC, but it was also maybe a 1-to-1, 14, 11 or something like that. You know what I mean? Real close, and a lot of CBD. Not a huge amount of THC, but perfect, the balance is there. And that's what you so maybe those would be what you'd look for if you had, Phylos there to actually looking for those tendencies. But anything that would be kind of in that frame might be in a little bit more original than what's out there now, if you're going to look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. And we did, I had Phylos there with me, and we were able to do some genetic research on those ones. And if folks that are listening in are interested, you can check out on Phylos's website. Right now, there's a little video that explains, sort of the story of that trip and how important that stuff is. And it was just, for me, I was honored to even be a part of it. And it kind of coalesced together just sort of organically, and it was really nice. And there's a farm down there that's, wonderfully motivated in a lot of really medical and nonprofit called Genret Farms. And I got to give them a shout out because they clearly had done a lot of work in wanting to protect those, 1-to-1 type original strains. And that's of course, everybody's always looking for the strongest THC or whatever, and that definitely has merits too, because there's obviously all kinds of different medical applications to different cannabinoids. So we got to look for it all. But I personally know that a lot of folks really feel really comfortable when they're using the strains that are more mellow and have the CBD component.
There's a lot of times people who have been working a strain for years, and all their friends love it, and it's such a good thing for them, and then all of a sudden the guy tests it out and his mind's that's 16% THC, and he gets all pissed off and but it's yeah, but maybe if you look at the rest of it, you can see that's where, oh shit, this shit's really unique. It's got a THCV in it off the chart. You're like, oh whoa, I didn't know that. There's these little details that people don't know yet, but that's what I like when I find people that ran the same thing forever and had a good feel for it and didn't understand, didn't test it, and didn't care about any of that. And now all of a sudden, but sometimes they get, like I said, they get disappointed because they think, oh, it's not great because it's only 16 or even lower. I mean, Soma had some stuff that he won a cup with that came out at 14% THC. It was nothing. Yeah. But it had something about it. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I remember the first time I had some terpenes analyzed, I think they looked for 6 of them. And I got this report, and it was oh, there's myrcene, woohoo. And, now, I get, when I get tests back, we try to get the 36. And that's still, what is it? There's something hundreds and hundreds of different flavonoids and terpenes out there.
Sure. I mean,
and so we don't really know.
Right now, about 180, maybe so many people think, but it's we don't even know.
Yeah.
There's more.
And then flavonoids too. And then, I'm not trying to diminish how important chemotype results are in, research and improving, as a breeder. It's like, that's a really huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And terpene results, but also in the same breath, I can't stress enough how important just, how it affects each individual human being. Mm-hmm. And if you like it, then that's really good enough.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily allow yourself to just, seek something because of its chemotype lab result. Just do what you like.
Sure. And that's been the cool part about cannabis the whole time, is that it's always been a touchy-feely product, and that's kind of where I think everybody who is into it was into it for that reason, is that they figured out like what works for them. You know what I mean? And if everybody has, like, if you're the type that maybe can smoke a lot, or you like weed a lot, then you're gonna, for the most part, and if you like it, it should be good for everybody. You know what I mean? You're the test bunny, and everybody's got a little slightly different taste, but we all agree on certain things. That's where, some stuff's really hard to deny, but at the same time, there's also weird flavors out there that haven't even been really pulled out yet, because we're in such a, again, dog's breakfast now. You know what I mean? Everybody's working off of everybody else's
Right.
So-called strains. So
yeah,
So I was going to ask you, Chris, where's your partner that you wanted to talk to me?
Oh,
I want to leave her out.
She's right here.
Don't leave her out of the discussion now.
Hey, Adam, this is Amber. I was involved with Hemp Hoodlum back in the day. I did a lot of distribution of in the Humboldt area.
I know exactly who you are.
And
how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Nat said that he was on the radio with you, and I was like, oh, yeah, I know that guy.
Yep.
Anyways, good to hear your voice.
Of course,
Glad to hear you're doing well.
Yeah, doing great. You ever come out to Denver, you guys are always welcome to come by the show. Come hang out over here, and I'll do the same. Cool. I'm sure one of us will be in the one of us will be in one of each other's areas at some point, I'm sure. In Humboldt.
Yeah, if you're ever up here, we also do a rafting company, so getting out on the river and going rafting is also a fun thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And this year, rafting might be a little bit of a mud rafting, and just right now, Santa Barbara's having a special. Yeah. Did you see that van? Did you see that car that was getting chased down the street by that thing? That was nuts. There was this one video one video of this guy he was definitely not making it. You were like looking at that, like, holy shit! Dude. That's
so scary. I couldn't believe that. Well, I guess what I was going to say too on that same discussion, and actually what Amber reminded me was, like when it comes to these old heirloom type varieties, like we still put together stuff like, Trainwreck, for example. I've always loved that, and it almost, I feel like it came close to like really almost getting lost. And I know that that's an exaggeration. There's always going to be somebody that's got a Trainwreck clone that's out, still alive or whatever. But for what I do and with breeding, that's just been like one of my little side projects. Is I'll just sort of create these classic strains that people know and love, and make them, stabilize them in seed form. And, it's, to me, it's like, I'm not trying to like take credit for Trainwreck or anything, but I want to keep it alive because it's so great. And, I want people to be able to have it in seed form.
So that plant in particular, I mean, wouldn't you find that it's such a Hermy-prone plant that I would just be like, that'd be the hardest plant to stabilize, in my opinion, just in the long run, without Hermy tendencies, because I just noticed that everything I've ever played around with it and was like, oh, God, this thing's a bitch, you know what I mean? And that's like the real deal when it does that, which is like a terrible trait that you really want to know, like, oh, yeah, does it Hermy? Yeah, oh, great. It's like, did you have problems with that strain in particular?
We didn't. I would say that pretty much every seed comes out like undistinguishably like that smell, and of course it's like the sativa growth habit, and it's this crazy like wide, super wide. Eventually it gets tall, but it's that incredibly unique train wreck smell. And somehow we bred the real hermaphroditic problem out of it.
Okay.
And
yeah, just because we had the guy on the show last month, I should say I think it was last week, Steve Tuck, and he's kind of like one of the guys who was there when it was really like back in the 90s or whatever, and it was like he really had a hard, his description was if you looked at it wrong it would remind you. So it was kind of like one of those, maybe it kind of tired out, or maybe somebody else selected beforehand or something, because it's one of those plants that I had the same problem in Europe with it. I got it in Europe and I was like, why would anybody want this? Because at the same time it never made seeds. It was kind of like it just was more of a visual thing, So it would always like throw out like bananas that never kind of really pollinated anything because it came on. The plant was so quick anyway. How many days are you talking? Like 42, 44, something like that? Like fast, right?
It's pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours is probably more like 50, 55 or something. But
yeah.
I just, in general, it's sort of like, for me, that's kind of like a genre. And like, Jack Herrera, like we do a Jack Herrera, and it's just like, for a while we were calling it Jack Knife because it wasn't quite there, but eventually we sort of circled back around, and we looked at the genetic comparison, and it was close, right? It's obviously when you have seeds, nothing ever is going to land right on top of because they're not clones, they're not identical.
Jack's one of those ones that's really turned into a sort of, like you said, like a genre, almost like a whole genre of itself. You're like, oh, Jack. You can really smell it real quick. Yeah, it's like,
and it's got. And then we also did like a terpene analysis and looked at sort of, what the common terpene analysis.
A lot of terpenoline in those ones?
Exactly. And so eventually we were like, what? We've really done it over, that's something that I had bred with, or I'd played with and tried to really stabilize it in a seeds line for 10 years. And eventually we felt like we could stop calling it something that it wasn't and just call it, credit where credit's due. It's Jack Herrera. And I know that there's some interesting, how that name and whether, our hero Jack Herrera actually even knew about that. And that's a whole different story. But nonetheless, like, being able to be like, all right, kind of like a Brandywine tomato is a Brandywine tomato, and a Jack Herrera, it better come out with lots of terpenoline, and, it better be a little bit on the sativa side, and, and so that's kind of where we gauge and how we decide whether or not we feel comfortable being like, all right, well, here's seeds. And, I think I'd love to, we just kind of want to keep those originals alive and share that kind of stuff with people, so that, because it's like we're losing that stuff in a way. And that's why I appreciate, I'm on the board of directors of the Open Cannabis Project, and all the work that's going on there with, protecting the right for people to be able to grow medicine that has always worked well for them. And, also make new stuff too, without worrying about, of course, like, this sounds cliche, but without worrying about Monsanto saying that's our pollen that you have in your field because it drifted 10 miles from our cannabis research facility. And so
well, I think with that particular example, I would say, being a guy that worked for Sensi Seeds and knowing how pretty big they are in a sense, they're not necessarily the Monsanto of weed, that's for sure, because they're definitely not. They're not an evil empire, but they're definitely the oldest guys on the block almost, as far as 86 or something like that. Is I think when they started, and so with them, it's kind of that'd be one of those things where I would say I'd either change the name just personally and put the Jack Harrow underneath it or something like that, just because it's either pay them in one sense or go straight to Jack's brother and give him some cash straight, because he's right there in California. So it's one of those things where I'd be like, just because the guy's a real, because the thing about the Jack is when he was there in 90, I believe it was 2 or 3. No, actually, sorry, it was 94. 94 when they had him come over and walk through the grow room, and they showed him, this is what your plant is, and he got to smell it and take the photos, and there's a video online of that and stuff. And things like Jackie had nothing to do with it in the sense of building it or anything, but it was a crazy hybrid too. It was like an 11-way hybrid that they showed on the TV. I saw it on the thing.
We're getting calls in.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Skype just changed.
I'd love
I'd
to offer.
Okay,
If his brother, we did try to get a hold of the family a little bit, because Dennis Perrone, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, of course.
Wrote the, so they were buddies, and we've been like talking with Dennis, and Dennis would like us to create a variety for him, and so the whole the Jack Herrera thing came up, and I said immediately, I was like, we would absolutely love to do, because Dennis, like a portion of the whatever the we give it to a charity, or we give it to the family members and stuff like that. So there's I think that's completely and totally warranted. Or
because I well, the thing is, I know that Sensi owns the rights to the seed thing, but they're not really doing stuff yet here. But at the same time, you kind of like But at the same time, Mark, I know, is promoting for his brother, and he's like, or his father, and so it's kind of like. It's always good to give the kid, give the kid some money. But the kid's like 40. he's an adult, but he's representing the book and representing Jack and representing all this stuff. So it's kind of like, it's always good to link those things together.
So we're pursuing that. Actually, it's funny that you brought it up, because that was like something I talked to Dennis's whole family at the Castro Castle about trying to track the Herrera family down.
That's cool. Yeah, I can definitely link you also with Mark. So when you besides like you and your, so how many people you got working like partner wise, and in what kind of sort of parameters?
Well, we really do, a lot of our breeding is just outdoor. So we have a permitted farm here in Humboldt. And it's, the place that we've been working here for a long, long time. And, our team is pretty, it's not huge. We've got like a board of directors with some local and native influence, because we like to kind of honor our community and the land of the people that have always been here. And, but, I've got Ben and Bo and Crystal, and the list kind of goes on. Of course, Amber sometimes helps a little, but we're just a big team here as far as like our community goes. And then we also work with the True Humboldt and the Sun Growers Guild and the California Growers Association, and Phylos does a lot of, helped us a lot when it comes to informed breeding and stuff like that. So, and then like I said, I'm on the board of the Open Cannabis Project. So it's a really big collaboration.
Nice.
And we're sort of really rooted in Humboldt. I very rarely ever even lead the occasional like conference or workshop. Kind of tears me away, but I'm sitting right now on the farm, deep in the mountains of Humboldt County, and just actually had a walkthrough from the permitting agency of the local tribe. So we did that. It's interesting what's happening right now, and I really am scared for a lot of our community here because I see a lot of big corporate influence coming in, and
so
I think it's time for.
So James is trying to call in to jump in on the conversation, and we have a new setup for Skype. So if we lose you, it's just because we totally messed up on the buttons and we don't know what's going on yet. So I'm gonna figure it out. So just in case you get cut off, just call right back, and then we'll drop James in a second because I think he's trying to call in. But we might have we might work it out. We never know. So,
I don't know.
Oh, there you are. He's there. So now are we there together or not? No, I heard James.
Matt, you with me? Matt, brother, come back.
Nah, seriously, we haven't figured it out yet. We're totally florgled. What's going on, Mr. James?
Florgled. Nothing much, just calling in and knocking my guests off,
Yeah, that's what you do when you're big James rolling in, knocking off the guests. No.
I will. I'll just do my quick spat, and then we'll get out of here. Let you guys get back on the good stuff for the day.
Yeah. So what's your big bargains of the day?
Looks like I've been listening all day. Looks like sounds like Matt's been giving a good lowdown on what he's been doing. He needs to break into his Phylos triangulation method, which is pretty cool that he's got going.
Okay, we'll get into the triangulation.
Yeah,
the triangulations.
Triangulation. Now you can like zoom in and zoom out. Check that out. Something about that. But this month's special is January. Shout out to the chat gang, of course. First of all, love the new YouTube version, which is a lot friendlier. I know I'm sitting on my computer and watching it, so I don't know if we did it on purpose or not, but I like it. It's cool.
What did I do? Did I do something on purpose? Nothing.
Yeah, we're on YouTube now.
Oh yeah, I did it on purpose because we said later. I waited till the last second, and then I just told MTI yesterday, and then it said we better do it. Yeah, we did it.
You waited for the last second on something?
No. Never. It's not in my nature.
No,
I found that at noon yesterday.
What's going on?
That new strain?
I found out at noon yesterday that we're going to YouTube.
Oh. well, it's better than this morning at 9 a.m. By the way, we'll be at YouTube.
Well, I put it on at 3 in the morning, so people had to be up late. People who were up late knew. Right. People who were up early shouldn't know.
Well,
people who were up late.
Real quick, the specials for January are Paulo Hayes, Green Avenger Rosetta Stone for $84.88. Everything Crockett, including his new 6 sour plum drops.
Nat, we're going to get back to you in 2 seconds. We're just listening to James. We'll just listen to James, and then right at the end, you could go boom and call. So you got like a 2-minute wait. Sorry.
Nice.
We can't figure
trying to figure it out.
We're like a band who can't figure out our equipment right now. Like, dude, I just do that.
But to that extent, shout out to KChat MTI. The audio has been 10,000% better. Like, it's been really good, guys. I appreciate it.
Right on. I appreciate that.
Well, not just on the kid, but I can actually hear it. I mean, there's a crackle. Some stuff you guys got, like the archive one, that was a great interview, but I can barely hear it. So,
gotcha.
Thanks for putting in the extra work. But to finish off the specials, all Crockett 108.88 for 12 packs. All exotic except for the triple OG is $98. Exotics going on 24 cups in 3 years. So all Gold Coast is $78.88. Loud Lagunitas, the cross they made it for the beer. Lagunitas, which you were a big fan of, I know. We used to be. Those 5 packs are going out the door for $38.88. The cart deals, and if you spend $600 plus, you get a free 10-pack of the Squish from Dominion Seed Company with Duke Diamond over there. I'm smoking on some 187 currently that he gave me. Mighty tasty.
Nat, we're almost done. We're almost done, Nat.
This week's drops, or actually next week's drops, we've got Karma hitting the boards. Humboldt Seed Company hits next Monday. Ethos has a restock. Melvinetics has a restock. Coastal's coming in. Brothers Grimm has a restock. Homegrown Natural Wonders, and of course a restock from Exotic. So that all hits next Monday, next week. So follow to the site. And that's all I got. Thanks for having me back on the show, and appreciate you taking Nat on. And
yeah. So, well,
I'll see you 2 weeks in Denver.
hopefully Nat comes back because now he's not all pissed off because you came in and
He's back.
Oh,
he's
no.
back. He's
We'll
back.
catch you later, dude.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you. Bye.
Yeah. Are we? Is he back? No.
Someone's here.
Nat.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so it happens when your distributor comes in and just kicks you right off your own show. You're like, what? What's going on here? But it's our fault because we got new Skype set up. We downloaded some new swag today, and we're like, oh shit, how do you do this? And, we'll figure it out right at the end of the show. So we were talking a little bit about you guys and your growing and breeding. So you guys are completely organic, right?
Yeah, we're like clean green certified, and definitely, we obviously have an indoor laboratory component, but what we, want to put forth is, like stuff that works for organic and, indoor or outdoor.
If there might be something in some element in the whole process or something like that, that's not what I'm saying in general as far as your practices and stuff are generally in a organic fashion as far as, up in Humboldt,
beyond,
I can imagine.
we're like,
beyond. Burying stuff in horns and shit, or you guys are not quite there?
What was that? The
yeah,
Humboldt cupser?
Yeah, you guys are doing that.
Yeah, no, we're there. We're experimenting with that kind of thing.
Right.
The other thing that we focus a lot on too is we have like the whole ranch is completely, like carbon neutral. So we did solar, and we've got a micro hydroelectric system. So it's just like a little tiny stream of water that spins a turbine and powers the whole facility. So
that's awesome.
We try our best here, and really a lot about like community and we want to see this craft cannabis thing that Humboldt's got going be able to have some longevity to it, some sustainability, and what I'm just seeing all around me is people just falling off and just giving up, and with like the permits, as much as they do look to, protect the environment, some of the stuff is tough because, I have a lot of colleagues that, that's where the focus of their life is working to protect the ecosystem here in Humboldt and nearby, and but they have they need to use a tiny bit of water from a local stream, and that's now impossible. And so you've got to, like what we did is put in big tanks, and it's a lot of plastic, and I'm not really trying to make a statement here or anything, but it's tough financially for people, and I'm seeing a lot of like the original farmers just kind of give up, because the other thing that they're doing is, if you continue without the permit, which requires, a lot of these big infrastructure changes and build outs with tanks and stuff. If you continue and you think, oh, maybe they won't notice me, like they sent a ton of cease and desists, and the way they're doing it is like they don't come with a helicopter and chop plants as much anymore, but they send a bill like $10,000 a day is what the letter said if you don't stop. And obviously, no one wants to have a bill for $10,000 a day levied against their property. So
right, so just chasing people away at rentals and stuff like that, of course, and scaring all the owners, and that's crazy. That's the thing is like they're really clamping down around here also on growers, and they're never very happy about outdoors here in Colorado, and then indoors they're kind of cracking down on people too, and limiting and putting numbers, and it's like it is one of those things where you get like when the first sort of saw the cracks here in America opening up, it was kind of unbelievable. And of course, everyone's going to take the piss and go with as much as they can, and especially California. California always was like, smoking in the shops and all sorts of things you can't do here anymore. But there was a little moment in time here in Colorado where you could actually still smoke in shops. And it's like now they're still cracking down on everything when it comes to consumption and it comes to growing. But places that are old school growing, like where you guys are at, do we lose them?
I was trying to figure out the group chat.
Oh.
There we go. He's back.
We're back.
Hey, sorry.
Sorry, we're just still trying to figure out this group chat. It's driving him nuts. Trying to figure it out while he's just like trying to figure out how to drive a bus with like a whole bunch of people in the back. Like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to drive this bus. And oops.
No problem. I get it.
Now I totally lost the train of thought. So what was I saying? What were we saying?
We were just talking about how it's changing. Everything's changing. And,
oh yeah, you got to roll with the punches. And now the thing is, if you're a breeder, you kind of have a little niche, but not really, in the sense of the numbers become an issue. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, you can't have as many as you need to be a good breeder. You know what I mean? You have to like here. It's
that's right too.
Here it's almost impossible.
So we had to get a license for a certain amount of square footage, and then also a license for a nursery. And fortunately, we were able to get it changed. But at first, if you were going to be a nursery, which in California they consider a seed company a nursery, if you were going to have a nursery, you couldn't have cultivation anywhere on in your license or as part of your organization. So I was just I talked to some of the legislature. That is that's impossible. There's no way you can only breed and not be able to see what you've done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, you can't move forward. You know what I mean? You can't, like, you're gonna be stuck in. You might be able to do one generation of something, but you can't like select the next generation if you can't grow enough out to make a proper selection. That's just sort of the basics of breeding. And then and it's not about. It's also literally not about even bringing plants to fruition at that point. It's like a lot of times it's just being able to throw down 10,000 plants and cull out right away half of them. You know what I mean? But you still got to have that many and be comfortable and not get arrested because you put down and let them grow 2 feet or 3 feet and then said fuck these ones and went through. And what I mean? There's a lot of in between work there that just doesn't even count towards weight or anything else that's going to turn into money. It's just pure R&D. At that point.
Right. It is. It's all about R&D, and our motto, and that brings up
and you will make
part of our process.
Make some hash along the way, of course. Would never not do that, but I mean, not enough to fucking break the bank or anything like that. It's kind of like at the end of the day, it's more like you're culling all the time and you're moving ahead, and that's when it's fun. And but it's also a lot of work. That's
exactly that brings up part of our process, and sort of our motto is that we pretty much, toss 99% of what it is that we create. So to keep that up with all of the, regulations and permitting, what we do a lot of the time is, we'll just provide the whole neighborhood, the whole region with a whole bunch of seedlings in the spring, and then have an arrangement where we go back and
double check on people and see what's going
on. Yeah, we do cuttings. So really, each year with each of our varieties, we try to have at least 100 of them to select from, and 100 of them go into flowers. So for example, with our blueberry muffin, that's getting really popular these days here in California, Humboldt. But with that one, we, this spring, give a good friend, what we call a sister farm, 100 really nice sex female seedlings. She fills up her light depth with them, and then we come back right as she starts pulling cover. We take a couple cuttings from every single plant, label it from the plant to the tray, so it's all traced, and we can go back and re-reference, and then we'll keep those cuttings alive, pot them up, keep them alive until we have had a chance to run our whole like rating system on all 100, and we've got this system. I can share it with folks. I've been trying to publish it actually. A whole bunch of different variables that, in our opinion, we've made it numeric, so you can enter it into like Access database and query out results. But it kind of, sort of gives you the feeling of what this individual plant is like. And so once we've rated all 100 and then kind of selected it down to a subset of usually around like 10, we'll go and get testing done on those 10 individual plants. And then eventually, once we have picked our winner, from all different angles, like the test results, the smell, the look, the 28, different variables in our rating system. It's actually 30 now, but used to be 20. So anyway,
is this part of your is this part of your triangulation
once
technique?
We do all that,
is this part of a triangulation technique?
What's that?
Is this part of your triangulation technique that James was trying to tell me about?
Exactly. Yeah. So we basically narrow it down, and then that's the one that we're breeding with. So we throw away 99% of that effort of keeping those clones, and then we're left with this one out of 100. And we try to do at least 100 for each variety as we do a cross. So that way, it's not just like you're randomly, keeping the strain alive. It's like you're actually not only keeping it alive, but making sure that it's improving and it's staying true to its nature. And we started using a lot of like the Phylos results that kind of help do that. It's easily confused with people are like, oh, you're doing genetic modification. Well, not at all. All we're doing is sort of using results from genetic research to inform us.
Yeah, no, there's no modification by using Phylos, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's great
so
to have. They're
do.
Great to have as a service when you're as a breeder, just because it's like we in our wildest dreams we couldn't connect the dots as fast as you can with them, and or see that your like dots are not connected. Like, okay, oh shit, I thought it was that, and now I know. But there's also been times where I've been actually happy because I've given them something and I thought it was, it was given to me, and I knew it wasn't what they labeled it, but I just wanted to know what it was in general, and where it sat was exactly in a perfect spot for me. I was like, oh, that's actually nice, because that's like, real raw and just kind of all by, right in a real obvious area, compared to being like in a cluster with a million other things, and it was kind of unique in itself. So,
yeah. And you look at like any of the results that we have up on like the galaxy or whatever, none of them are, of course, none of them are clones, but none of them are even, it's unique. But then some of them, on the other hand, do fall right in next to where we hoped they would. And, because so it's a great tool. And I, from working with the salmon, research, and we published a paper, or I technically helped publish a paper in Science, which is a really prestigious journal, on salmon. And
do cannabis and salmon
from there,
do cannabis and salmon share any kind of DNA in any sense that you know of?
Well, yeah, I mean, all life on Earth technically
of course
shares a lot of DNA,
right?
But,
or any direct links in any kind of genetic in the genome, or any.
Well, I wasn't able to figure that out, but what I was able to figure out is that, like if we're looking to figure out how we can tell, this important run of fish that could, potentially repopulate a whole entire region once we pull the dams out, and figure out, what the marker is, to sort of just like what the region of the DNA that controls the behavior, it really led me to understand, like, okay, in cannabis, I'm so interested in finding the similar markers that control, all these different features and traits. And it's called annotating the genome, and it could lead to, marker-assisted breeding. And I think those tools are definitely probably being utilized, and I'm utilizing it to some degree. I mean, we're doing a lot of CBD research. And I know we discovered recently a really unique variety that we're calling Willie G's Lebanese, and it's from the Baca Valley in Lebanon. And
Nice.
so right
short,
now, I think
short,
a lot of this,
the real short one, little bushy thing.
yeah, and it's just got almost like you could probably ship it around. I mean, there's just almost no THC, but in a pretty decent amount of CBD. So
nice.
It's cool, and it's got a really rare terpene profile too. But yeah, so Phyllis was looking really deeply into that, and a lot of other cool land-based things. And I think it's important to put the medicine first, obviously, but in the back of my mind too, I'm like, let's also look for that marker that controls that incredible terpene that I really want to have as much as possible of, and not try to splice or genetically modify it, but if you can use PCR to kind of search a few trays of a few hundred or a few thousand or whatever, and quickly be able to be like, okay, this one has that trait, and that's kind of a nice. I should shut up because I'm now giving away all.
Oh, yeah, telling me all your secrets. No, I think it's pretty much like breeding in general is one of those things where it's always been a lot of people hiding in the shadows and doing their thing, and not want to get in trouble. But now all of a sudden, they want their there's other people who are just jumping out there woo, this is easy, and they don't understand the kind of basics of trying to hold down a line, which is actually harder than just taking somebody else's work and putting it together with somebody else's work and being like, "Ooh, I'm a breeder." That's kind of what a lot of the stuff that's really hype right now. But it's not. You're never going to get what you think you're going to get, and might get something good. You might get something better. Who knows? There is definitely the good part about it is cannabis does kind of. Persevere in the sense that there'll always be a winner here and there, without even people trying. That's for sure.
Of course.
But for the consistency, it's kind of nice to have people that just, and Humboldt's one of those places that, they've had a history. So I love the fact that you already recognize that that's kind of what they got to work on in a sense. In the long run, it's going to be people driving up to Humboldt and checking it out and being like, whoa, this is where it really started. It's kind of like Amsterdam of NorCal in that sense, because that's what you think of.
Right. Well, and like I said, I always gave away the crosses that I made, and I still if somebody wants to do some research and try to find some cool phenotypes out of some brand new hybrid that I just made, I will literally just give them. And I don't know how many people are listening to this show. I might have a bunch of people pulling up my driveway tomorrow, but those are the things that I give away. And so it is, when I see, a lot of new breeders, I love it. I'm really stoked, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, just so the world knows, these aren't really breeding yet. They're just allowing something to pollinate something else. Breeding is when you make that first cross and then you work with it for years, usually. Unless you're flipping things really, really quick. It took me years and years before I ever felt I was making something that was worth charging for. And so pretty much everything that we put out there.
Well, yeah, and if people come back to you and tell you that that what they've had was great. And I've seen it with other friends of mine too who didn't want, like, kind of did it blind. Like one kid with ruderalis was like the younger brother of a girlfriend of mine, and like he never grew in his life. He was like 15 years old, and he made some seeds that I gave to some people. I was like, hey, these are like a ruderalis cross that this like 15-year-old kid made, and like lived out in the middle of nowhere in Holland. And I had people come back to me next year and go, oh my God, dude, they were amazing. And I'm like, okay, they're like hitting me. There's a 15-year-old kid who just made a great cross that somehow worked great for these dudes who came back, because I just gave them away because I didn't really want to work with any ruderalis personally. But yeah, it's funny. Like, there's just, it's hit and miss. Like, but if that kid got all cocky and thought he knew what he was doing, he might come out with a big, crappy, hermy, like unbelievably unstable batch of seeds, which you see also, pop up just as often. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Exactly, and it is. It's like you're rolling the dice a little bit, and I think if people are aware that what they're getting from a company is something that's like a total roll of the dice, then like more power to that person in that company. I really support that, and so like I'm not at all trying to like trash talk, but I just think education is important because we for example, like just wait until it's somewhat stable. And stable is a little bit like subjective of a term, obviously, but you shouldn't have, if you say something is something, then it shouldn't come out with like 20 different, unless that's what you want. So, but I've always heard like from Humboldt, people were always like, we love seeds. We love seeds because they're clean. They don't come with diseases, bugs, and we love them because they're vigorous. They're freaking healthy. They grow big. They're a lot easier in a lot of respects to work with. We can plant earlier. All this great stuff. But they're like the one issue is that we can't have a product that is like 50 different things, because we planted 50 plants that were sort of supposed to be the same. So that's really like a big focus of ours is, trying to create something that you can sort of walk down a row and from one plant to the next, toss it into the same bin. And, I think we're there pretty much, like we're getting close. I wouldn't say that every single variety, but, looked at whether it's, F4 or how much we've been working with it.
And you're in the kind of stable climate where the temperatures and swing isn't super duper high. Compared to some other places where it's like really hit and miss. You kind of have a pretty good track record, I'm sure, where you're at, just considering the length of time that people grew in the same spot without, obviously moving as much as you normally do when you're in some place that's completely guerrilla growing and you have to be like under this year over here and that year over there. And, that's when you kind of, again, you might have a good year or a bad year compared to normal, but
right.
Without natural disaster, it should be good up there.
Like that, definitely pretty much every type that we have has some old guerrilla. It was out in the hills of Humboldt at some point, but it's been a little while since I've been doing any of that. So, but it's got those roots too, which I think is important. Like when, for example, with the Jamaica thing, it was like this is, and it may just be like I may sound like sort of a metaphysical like Yahoo right now, but like there's something to having a real story and like have it really be from some place. And I think people are going to appreciate the fact that this history that's obviously it's like it's good that nobody has to hike through the hills anymore and hide in the bushes, but that's part of the magic that's bred into this culture and this community here in Humboldt County, and I think like honoring that and thinking about that can impart like some cool effects into the cannabis. as trippy hippie as that might sound, I want to honor it too, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that you're in that perfect kind of climate there, both politically and obviously in reality, just as far as temperature goes and things like that, and humidity, but also just politically and with people's vibes and stuff. I mean, Humboldt always, even since I was a child, was pretty much like, oh, that's weed. That's where you go to weed spots, And so I think, and also being accepted in the community there is huge, because that's one of those things. There's tons of people who ran there in the last few years trying to snatch up spots and max out everything they can, and that's kind of like, obviously everybody else had lived there for years, and some people feel it's kind of a little of that surfer vibe almost, where it's like, my beach, my hill. And I know people who moved there. Yeah. I've seen kind of all sides of it all, with the happy side and the scary side, and it's a pretty wild place to be in anyway, and survive at, I think. So you kind of learn the
a little bit.
Yeah, compared to the average.
The first people here were, the Wiyot and the Talawa and the Karuk and the Yurok, and so we're all visitors and newcomers in some respect, but I definitely think that if you come and you don't have respect for the people that have been somewhere, whether they've been there since time immemorial, or whether they've been there for a few generations or whatever, and yeah, so it did. We had this huge influx of people that really, a lot of them were really cool people, because cannabis attracts really cool people. But then there, definitely there's some folks that seem like this, money was the goal, and not necessarily, here for what really Humboldt is and what it has to offer. It's a beautiful place, and, grows great cannabis. And I mean, all over, you can grow great cannabis all over the world, but there's knowledge here and some really cool things that have happened over the years, and that history is rich. And so I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like it's going to be quicker than a lot of other industries where we don't have like as long as like a lot of wine, and people have been sitting on vineyards for 100 years and their family or whatever like that. That won't even happen with cannabis hardly, because of the fact that most people will get gobbled up at some point, real quick, because it's going to people are going to be chasing the price will be dropping, and then the reality it'll be the closeout more faster than anybody can imagine, I think, compared to other industries. So there'll be very, very few winners, I think, and a lot of people just bailing out, like you kind of see, I think, already, and being scared of the tsunami of corporation sort of minded people who come in and just buy up like 8 farms and consolidate everything. And it is definitely an interesting time period as far as the direction that it's going as far as California, because being legal now, so it's going to be, I think, turbo speed, personally, for what I see. I'm sure you'll feel it quicker than anybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the epicenter of probably, like, I think what's going to be the most like damage to individuals, who have, for better or for worse, they've had this as part of their economy. They've been making medicine. They've been like doing it like in a holistic way. It's going to be hard to see them, have to make a transition. Just like, here's a statistic, like the school of Garberville, the little public school there, has a school lunch program where, if your family has an income that's, below a certain point or whatever it is, you can get free lunches. And I think, that's across the state of California. And I may not have this exactly right, but I believe 4 or 5 years ago, there was like 15% or something like that of the kids were signed up on the school lunch program. And as of last year, it was 80%. And so, and like literally, you know, Garberville it's sort of the epicenter, Southern Humboldt rural community. And, you know, I don't know. That's part of life, I guess. But it's tough because, you know, these are people that are not just, you know, haven't been raking it in from cannabis, but have been, you know, having some input from cannabis. They've been making medicine and getting it to, you know, patients through Dennis Peron's brilliant, you know, Proposition 215 that passed in 1996. Now, that was like the first time I ever voted in my life. I voted for that. And,
right.
And so, you know, they're fire and rescue volunteers. They're like the fire and rescue chief. They're the, you know, run the PTA. They do, you know, the quilting club, and it's this like demographic and diverse group of for the most part, like awesome people that support charity and support environmentalism, and that's the culture that is Humboldt, and that's changing a little bit, or at least it's just not as well, you know, like there's people are having economic issues.
Know that.
Well, we'd have to get rid of him.
Okay, no, we'll do it after. It's fine. Tell him no. Sorry, we're trying to work on we're working on the reality that we only have one guy.
If you guys want to give me like 2 seconds to figure it out, if someone's calling me, I could probably figure it out. It's just what happens is it puts the first guy on hold, and then the second guy.
Yeah.
And then I have to figure out what to do after that. But
then your brain stops.
No. It's they updated the help here, and I got it right here. But the thing is, you guys are talking, and I'm trying to do it in the background here. So
I know it's like Blade Runner. It's like fucking no, it's more like the Millennium Falcon right now. You're like, yeah, okay, we can make this work.
Right.
We can do this. All right, I'll tell him. He can.
Or here, I can try and figure out.
He says, "Tech guy sucks." Ha ha. He's just joking. Yes, Mr. Normal. So I have my friend trying to call in.
Let's try and figure this out. I'll do it on mine here.
He's gonna figure it out. By the time I told you, by the time the end of the show's over, he'll be like, "Yeah, I got it all figured out." What's that? I heard something. I heard an echo. Sorry, Nat. Do I hear some? I hear an echo as I hear somebody talking. Is that hopefully not me? No, mine's are off. Mine off.
Okay, I think we're back to Nat.
Nat's still here.
Okay.
So
I can't figure this out. They changed Skype all around. It used to just be a button that you just hit and it goes, and now it doesn't do it no more. So.
Oh my God, Mr. Normal, we can't figure it out. We're retarded.
Like,
yeah. So
I feel like one of those Humboldt original growers trying to figure out how to fill out a cannabis growing permit application.
I know. Like, how much do you make per year? Like, oh, yeah. I freeze on anything I have to fill out, no matter what it is. I feel like I don't want to fill that out. I mean, it doesn't matter. And my wife's, it's funny because she's from Sweden, so she's real, she hates it she's always hated it when it says male or female. You know, she's like, why do they ask? Why? I don't understand. You know, I'd be like, it's America, baby. They want to know everything. You know what I mean? And it's like male, female for everything. You know what I mean? And she'll freak out about it and be like, oh. And then now it's, of course, starting to happen where it'll be like, I don't want to answer or other, you know, and it's like, so, okay, they're adjusting quickly, you know what I mean? She's only been here for 7 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So in that time period since she got here till now, she's seen it creep over where it's like they have to, you know, recognize other genders, you know, and that's actually when she went to college for, so it's kind of funny. It is funny. So, speaking of genders, do you go feminized or non-feminized, or what's your deal?
We do. We, you know, it's not really like our biggest thing. I like people to be able to work with our strains, and there's technology out there that's I know that's coming soon that really is going to allow like some ease in identifying the sex of plants. And so we've just kind of over the years we use it as a tool as opposed to use it for production of our seeds. And I just like regulars. I feel like they are a little bit more vigorous sometimes. And
yeah, I mean, I'll get Colin on the show in a couple weeks, hopefully, and you can listen to him talk because he's 100% on the opposite side. He'll argue till the end, and he'll give us 9 reasons why. But I'm on your team as far as the reality of like being a breeder and holding on to genetics and knowing what I got. I mean, okay as a commercial grower, yeah, and that's what he is. He's more of a commercial grower, so he's really like thinking like numbers and cranking out things. And the average Joe Schmo might want feminized seeds, but in a way, I think if your ethics are kind of they sound very similar to the way I am too. Or like I could have, my partner in my own company, he's all about it because he lives in Europe, and I moved back to America, and I was like, when I move back, I'm not doing any feminized, even though like my company still feminizes everything I make. I give it to him. He brings it. They feminize it and sell the hell out of it. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I'm not. I'm not interested in. I'm not. But funny enough, all the work that I've ever seen in cups and things, and always seems to be normal. You know what I mean? So it's always like I feel like all breeders that are kind of in it for the long run are working off of having good males, and keep
sometimes like I can't, like some of my strains I can't even feminize. Like I just can't get them to hermaphrodite. Like our blueberry muffin is we've been trying and we can't get it to do it. And so I don't know. I mean, that's in my mind, that's kind of a good thing. And we could always just cross it, but if you want to have that sort of purist and really have it be 100%, this creation that you've spent a long time stabilizing, and then maybe it's okay. Maybe you don't have to have it be feminized always for people.
So we got Jessica wandering the zone, so maybe go let her in, find her. Sorry, I got an in-studio guest who's, because we're always moving around. We're in the same building, but we're like different rooms sometimes. So you ever do you guys you said you're like carbon footprint zero on your as much as possible, obviously, is so you're reusing your own soil and you have your own mix and things like that. You have how long you keep it for? And
yeah, we do. So of course we got like 2 pads. We have our breeding area where we have like usually 25 or 30 different individual breeding chambers here.
It's going to get loud here in a second. It's going to get loud here in a second because I got in studio and I got Mr. Normal calling me up. So it's going to, I'm just down. And dogs. We got dogs. There you go. We got dogs. We got it all.
With the sparkling water already there?
No, that's my empty sparkling.
Yeah, so
there's 2 more in the fridge.
The illusion of being loved.
Headphones are there for you, darling.
Mm-hmm.
I got Mike Normal trying to call me over here.
Oh, okay.
We got disaster in the studio. Dogs knocking things over. I knew it was going to happen. I saw it coming.
Dogzaster.
Dogzaster. Mike Normal on the phone. Look, it looks like Redley. It's like, there you go. See if you can put it on speaker and put it on the mic and see what you can do. Be like, we'll get him just some old school Make sure it's turned up, though, because I probably turned it down since it's... Mr. Normal, can we hear you?
I can hear you good. Oh, Mike, okay.
No, nothing?
I can hear it in the microphone.
I didn't hear him. I heard Art. That's Art. There's somebody there, but it's not. That's the voice of God right there. You don't hear. You hear him clear, loud and clear.
Let's try again.
All right, there. No. You just hold. You hold it in a different spot. I think it's in a different spot. You gotta hold it down. No, top part where your ear is. There you go. Up there.
Oh, you're not on speaker.
Oh man, what's going on?
Go for it.
Oh yeah, we can't get a. No, glargle glargle.
Hello?
Oh, there he is. See, I hear him now. What's up, Mr. Normal? No?
Mr. Normal, go for it.
Give us a. Can you hear? Oh, he can't hear us. Maybe he's not.
Yeah, he probably can't hear
And
us.
I got another guy calling me on my phone, and she's in the thing. Yeah, I can't tell him. Sorry, Mr. So not working.
Yeah, we just have to switch out guests if we're gonna.
Yep. Sorry.
Just today until I'm on Twitter with Skype.
It's okay. We still
right
have
now,
we still have about an hour or so. We're good. We have plenty of time. Plenty of time. So right after, we'll have Nat hang out for another 10, 15 minutes, and he's been on. We'll let him off now, even though we can talk for hours. That's the thing is, most guests that come on, it's like we barely scratch the surface of what they're, doing and or interested in, because it's always like with you, it's not just cannabis. It's like the fact that you're actually doing stuff locally to save wildlife and save particular genetic traits of local wildlife and recognizing all that kind of stuff makes it all pretty clear as a breeder that you got like an idea of what you want when how to get there, and that's awesome. And then also how are you just got involved with James, right? Like today is literally your first drop with Seeds Here Now. You have a bunch of other distribution sort of spots that you're at, like you're at Emerald Cup and your personal, like straight up, just like more like you and your crew more than the other big distributors.
We pretty much just go Seeds Here Now is awesome, and like super honored to be a part of that team without a doubt. But prior to that, it's just been pretty much the California dispensary world, and we started out like at the little Humboldt Patient Resource Center in Arcata, and we, had our seeds there, and it just kept growing and growing every year, which was sort of like my litmus for whether or not I was actually providing a service that was, a good thing, because I don't want to just, get money or anything. I just want to be able to know that people like it. So
yeah, no,
the fact that
you have a great crowd there too, because they're all very well educated. You're not like dealing with a bunch of people who are like, it's green. You're like, yeah, no, it's freaking proper weed. And
I feel very sort of posh now.
So the
like
fact that we
8
did
cents
well
about
there
10 or
year after year,
yeah,
and we kept growing from there. Every year. So then it was just like kind of a no-brainer. We sort of reached out across the state, and now, having, this partnership with Seeds Here Now is incredible. And, we're just, basically every year we devote our whole entire season, and we have all these chambers all over the farm that are devoted to breeding, usually 25 to 30 different ones at any given year, and they all get their own male, and then we're either focusing on stabilizing or doing an outcross, sort of like a research breeding, and that's most of our seed is actually produced in that environment that it's kind of intended for, but stuff does really well indoors, does well in light dep or mixed light, and we got one of our partners won sixth place at the Emerald Cup with one of our creations, the blueberry muffin, this year. And
that sparked James's attention there. He's like, "Ooh, blueberry muffin." I can see him going.
He likes anything that's, like a
Her
dessert.
mic's not on. Mike,
It's not?
Mike, not on.
No.
Am I here? I don't hear it. Hey.
I think your headphones are the problem. I could hear that other guy in my headphones.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't hear her mic. I hear me and I hear him.
Oh, I turned it down when I was.
Oh my god.
That was smart.
Yeah, because he knew. Yeah, see, he knew.
Super smart. Turn my ass down.
I would. No, I would not. I would not turn you down. So anyway, we have an in-house guest now, and
excellent.
That doesn't diminish your contribution, young man.
Nat is from Humboldt Seeds, so.
Hi, Nat.
So he's in Humboldt, obviously.
Hi.
He keeps it real simple. Humboldt Seeds. He's in Jersey, actually. No, that would be terrible.
That would be what they call marketing, which has
Exactly.
taken over the cannabis industry.
You said Humboldt Seeds. Yeah, I'm on Humboldt Seeds. Yo's. Like, no, he's there in Humboldt, and so we've been discussing. He's also been working a lot with genomics and figuring out traits and doing all those fun things we love to do. But at the same time, using the locals as his guinea pigs, which, as I was saying, is a great crowd.
Why not be friends with the people you live amongst?
And putting out some incredible stuff. So now available seeds are now. And besides the Emerald, because Emerald Cup is like fucking, it's huge. It's amazing. Were you there for the last, have you been gone since the beginning, or you've been just kind of last few years? Because I only went the last, say, 3 years, and then but every year has been like, wow, this is an amazing festival.
Well, I went. So I've been, breeding cannabis and growing cannabis here in Humboldt County since the late '90s, and I sort of have kind of been, for a little while, I kind of had to keep a low profile just because of my involvement with this great big, environmental effort that we finally actually signed a deal. And so that's pretty much done. My daughter also turned 18. And so a few of these things have kind of made me feel like, okay, now is the time to really, go on a radio show or do something like that. And so I've been doing that for the last year and a half or 2 years or so. And, the Emerald Cup has definitely, I haven't made every year to the Emerald Cup, but this year we were there in, a big way. But this is our, first, we're sort of like, we've been Humboldt Seed Company, but in a way we're kind of like debuting ourselves because we finally have felt like we're comfortable with just being out there. And I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, like we've gone through some serious stuff here in Humboldt and, traumatic experiences. And, like I saw all the commentary about the company that used a helicopter to drop samples of their cannabis. And people were like, well, that kind of triggered some interesting, and then I've been there. I've been, out there kind of hiding from that very, similar chopper. And so it's just kind of wild.
Luckily, it was a real crappy looking chopper. We were like,
it wasn't a black chopper.
It wasn't like a really it wasn't like a nice military grade or something like, oh shit, here it comes. No, it was a pretty cheesy looking one. It was like one of those bubble deals, old school bubble looking font.
It took me a long time to get used to living where I live because the choppers use the highway there as a guideline so they don't get lost in storms.
Right.
Fucking A.
Constantly going up. Yeah. Nowadays, it's worse because they use drones. They love drones because they're quiet. You know what I mean? They just fly a drone or two around. It's like it's a lot. It's a lot cheaper and quieter.
I won't say what that's like.
But that whole thing has been amazing. It's been an amazing journey, and I know I've mentioned Dennis Perone a bunch of times, but he's really been coming up for me a lot lately because with the new Proposition 64, that as great as it is to see recreational cannabis out there, and as great as it is to know that, hopefully a bunch of bad judgments against people that were just, growing a plant are hopefully being reversed and people being released. And really what the essence of that 215, the medical marijuana act that happened in 1996 was so beautifully crafted by Dennis and by Ken Miller. There's all the people that really, I have to honor them and just say thank you for doing that, because it created this sort of a revolution that brought us to where we are now, and to where this Emerald Cup, not only were we all not really scared of the helicopter, although it may have triggered some interesting memories, but it's on the internet. You can, they weren't using the helicopter to find it because it's advertised up and down Highway 101, and just having the capability of being that open is, it's so nice for somebody like me and people that are even more rootsy and have more, woods experience, those pioneers here. It's a new thing, and I still know a lot of people that aren't comfortable in those kinds of public, and being so open about it. But I've been a warrior all my life for my adult life for the environment and for community and for social justice, and to be able to be a public advocate for cannabis and for all the magic that it contains, that things that it can do for humanity and healing, is really great. And so I'm happy to be here on the radio, and I'm feeling a lot more comfortable. And so, we've been here.
It's one of those things where it's like, like everywhere we go, it depends on what phase they're in. You know what I mean? Like Colorado's kind of gone into its own new phase, which we're going to talk about in a minute with our guest. But in general, like California, because it's so much more, especially where you guys are, it's there is such a history of people producing beautiful cannabis and lots of it, and at the same time, everyone kind of knows everyone, and it's a good system already, kind of self-regulated, but now it's going to get regulated by the state, which is going to turn into a big fucking,
If I had like a few sentences of advice for Cali at this point of where they are right now, which is basically like the point where you need to go buy some lube because you might get fucked. I don't mean to be rude, but I've been through, I spent years and years in the underground and was well known and had a good reputation and all of that, and then decided I would try to pursue Colorado state licensure, was one of the very first people to have state licensure here, was on the rulemaking board. I did everything. I went to every freaking meeting, and I'm not happy with the way things ended up, even though I did everything in my god-awful power to try and make it better, but it, was just the sheer force of lobbyist dollars was more than activism could withstand, and that's really my thing that I would make sure that people in California know, because that's what we've had here is what you're going to face. Everything that I'm going to talk about, you're going to eventually deal with. So, these are my words of wisdom to California. If you have a good thing going now and you have a good relationship with other people that you're in business with, make it your number one priority to keep those good business partners in business, because my number one reason that I sold my cannabis licenses in the state of Colorado was because all the good-hearted mom and pops that gave a shit about patients that I came up with and started with got pushed out by big money, and after 4 years of having a state license, I got to the point where I actively realized that I was wishing ill will to my suit and tie jackass clients of my business, and I didn't want to be in the business anymore. Not because I didn't care about or want cannabis to be awesome, but because I couldn't. It was bad for me and bad for my heart to be in a business where I wished my clients ill will. And so, that's just something, my warning to California, don't let it be awfully, don't let it not be fun. Don't let them take all the fun out of weed, because that's what's happened in Colorado, and that's what breaks my fucking heart.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like...
I think that
they haven't even started in California, and California is like the kings of regulation, then they're gonna go nuts. You know what I mean? They're like,
I'm just saying, little guys, unite, work together, get your head together, get your ass together, put your ego on check, and make sure that you keep your weed free. It's going to be a huge, big deal, and I'm not joking around. You've heard me.
You're never joking around. Why don't you joke around?
When I joke around, I'm funny as fuck. But most of the time, I have the very limited, 45 minutes to tell people some serious motherfucking shit's coming down.
I know.
I'm smoking weed so I can tolerate the shit that I know, not so that I'm fucking having a good time.
Oh my God, you're like a junkie now.
I know, it's horrible. Because I know too much.
My brain is on fire.
That's great advice.
I mean,
I totally agree. And in Humboldt, it's turning into a commodity, and we can't compete in a commodity market when, this beautiful flower is just, a commodity like corn and, sugar cane or whatever. That's not what I got into this industry for. So, I think that you're absolutely right. And one of the examples of what we're putting together right now is this big phenotype hunt that is super collaborative. And so, taking all these little farms and trying to bring folks together. I mean, it's already happening, but for this project that, essentially using, rating systems and hunting for some really unique cultivars, because if anything, places like Humboldt, we're creative and that's just like one of the types of things that I'm pushing right now, and a project that we have going that, hopefully innovative that we can, maybe keep our head afloat. But I completely agree. It's coming down the pike, whether we like it or not. We live in capitalist America, and
going back to what you said about Dennis, and so he's somebody who I have the utmost respect for, and I can remember over a decade ago in my 30s going to San Francisco on a trip and having the opportunity to go visit the Brownie Mary Historic House and being like, holy awesome, because I make edibles. So for me, that was a really kind of a spiritual journey, and getting to know Dennis a little bit over the years since then and become, more of a friend. And at the same time, one of the strongest things you can do right now is take those small producers, those people who care, the people who care about patients and the actual patients who are in your community, and build a network that's going to be ready to fight the legislative things that are going to come down. Because that's the number one, basically the thing we have had a problem with in Colorado and why we've kind of gotten shafted is that the patients who were sickest weren't physically able to come to the Capitol. And there was no one going to the very few people. Me, Kathleen, a handful of people that have gone in the state of Colorado to represent the patient community for people who live in the rural parts of the state and can't go to the Capitol. So having people who live in Sacramento who will show up and represent, who are networked with people in your community is going to be super key for you guys to stay informed and to have people who not just send emails and make phone calls, but show up. Because that's a lot of gas mileage for somebody who's on a fixed income as a patient.
Yeah, and us, I say youngsters, I'm 40 years old, but we need to go and actively pick those folks up and load the wheelchairs into the back of the trucks and drive them to the events and drive them to the Capitol and to the the local supervisor meeting or whatever it is. And that's something that that's been part of my life for a long time, because with doing activism in the environmental community and especially with the indigenous community here, that's what we do. We pick up our elders and we take them and give them the voice, because that's the voice that needs to be heard. Because the legislature, it's maybe a hot shot state senator, but he's sure as hell going to listen to that great grandfather in the wheelchair that's been through it all, and so totally agree and support that.
And I think you have a good network. I mean, California has a lot of strengths that Colorado didn't, because we are a young population state. We don't look sympathetic in the way that like you're saying, having elders, having community members, we do have a lot of veterans here, and we were able to bring in a lot of those people because a lot of them were able to schedule their work around the legislature. But it really, there's a lot of like last minute surprises and gotchas and just being prepared.
They love that. They love that out here. Or to grind you down. They like to grind them down. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. Let's all start the thing on the thing with the thing. And you're like, come on. We're out of here.
Well, like last year, like that one, me and Nick Lavulo were the only two people there at like, 1 in the morning testifying against 1221. Right. And, well, as we have seen the legacy of that there have been a handful of busts in the last 10 days.
Right. Welcome to legalization. Right? Yeah, so it is one of the.
It's not legalization.
The thing about it is cannabis, and the crazy part about it is like, there's still people who are believing it, and it's like, it's like, wow, I thought we were out of this already. I thought we had already dug our way out, and everybody kind of understood that it wasn't, nearly as damaging as alcohol, which is on every block, and nope. It's like, but like where you are, that is part of the other part that I love about it is that there's some 20, 30-year vets there.
There's multi-generation families of hippies that have been raised to get their act together, and that's going to help.
Well, yeah, and actually have been growing in the family, and on top of that have
a vested interest in survival,
and learn, and that's part of the deal. I think it's just like survival of the fittest, right? In this situation, and to be on any of the hot spots and be able to make it this long, they kind of do benefit. Hopefully, then now it's just about keeping the land rolling and keeping the weed worth something, because it's dropping like a rock. That's for sure. And you guys feel it the worst, I think, there. Nat.
Well, I missed the last question.
Oh, I just said like, as far as the price is dropping right now, and the fact that you guys feel that probably more than anybody, just because the product there has always been, worth more anyway, regardless. And now all of a sudden you got to kind of compete with everybody, because everybody thinks that, they can do it.
And it's like the perfect storm right now, because for those that are attempting to, come into like this, compliance, quote unquote, that is unbelievably costly. And then, you've got this crazy drop in price. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are at their wits' end, and, we're already feeling the crunch from all of the legislation that has happened, and we have to band together. That's like been my mantra for the last year and a half. Is in Humboldt, like if you think that you're have to worry about that farm down the road, then you need to sort of open your eyes a little bit, and we gotta become even more tightly knit. And the farm down the road is that's, you got to advocate for them, and vice versa, because there's a lot more that we have to be concerned with, I think, that's coming. So it's tough. And
that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe this was already asked before I got here and I missed it while I was driving in the car, but what is your opinion about the fact that they said that there would be a 1 acre cap on farm size, and now they've just waived that for California?
Well, it's a loophole that, they said, oh, well, it's not legal for us to legislate that. And that's like a bunch of BS, because, they can regulate and legislate whatever they want. But, the voters' will was that we give these existing operations an opportunity to, establish themselves in this new paradigm. And that was supposed to happen for at least 5 years. So at least until 2023, we were supposed to have this buffer, and now that's gone. And there's certain regions of the state where the local jurisdiction has really opened it up. And as much as I support cannabis, you being able to grow it, as much and however you want, it's not that way, and it's not exactly a free market economy, and so really it's sort of stacked against the small, old school Humboldt Hills farm, or anywhere, Nevada City, anywhere.
The mom and pop model,
state,
would you say, is being eliminated in favor of big agri farm?
Yeah, and it's a microcosm for the United States, because how many mom and pop gas stations are there anymore? How many little neighborhood toy stores? Everybody.
Mm-hmm. As long as there's
if
one
given
big
the choice,
giant thing around in some zone within 50 miles, they're all gone.
We don't even have
Yeah, they're
them within
gone.
50. I mean, rural places are losing anything because you got to now drive 100 miles to go to a Walmart to get toys or whatever, underwear, things. Or you could,
and that's really
for where
really
I live,
unfortunate.
you can drive 20 miles to use the internet at the library, but you can't get it out where I live in the hills. So, it's like you're going to drive. When I come to the city to do something like this, it's like a little over an hour drive. And I will do every errand that I need to do for the next 10 days while I'm in the city because everything's cheaper, and it doesn't matter that they don't. It's either the choice of having a choice or no choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But,
And I this is just an example. Like, here where I live, there's a ton of indigenous culture, which I'm really thankful for and supportive. And people would say, sometimes we have like hippies that would be mixing, and they would look at like the food choices and sort of stick their nose out and say, oh, that's not organic. And I would always just be shocked. I'd be like, think about it. Like, if you can afford, that's a luxury that you get to afford. If you can afford to go shop at the, not Walmart, at the local, little toy store on the corner, that's awesome. Good for you, and good for you for making that choice. But most of this country, as rich as the United States supposedly is, doesn't have choices. Like, most of the people, it's like you're either gonna, have a birthday present for your kid or you're not. And if that's the difference, then your ideals and morals of Walmart or small business, you can't. It's like, and you got to eat, you got to house yourself. So we're in a position, wealth is being consolidated.
And their toys.
No, I'm just laughing because I live in a 22,000 square mile county with one grocery store that gets stocked once a week. So
yeah,
I mean, I kind of get it, But I come to the city and there's a Torchy Tacos across the street.
Ooh, Torchy. Exactly. The show's gonna kill her now because I keep looking at it.
Oh, I can
you're hungry.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, you're in a unique position because you're going to watch things as they transfer. When they transfer, they're never going to go back. You know what I mean? We're kind of in the new world now, where it's like, okay, this is it's for real now. It's definitely it is turning into something, and it's kind of sucking here and there, of course.
Well, I mean, my legislative ideal, like if I could say like what my ideal would be that I would hope people would adhere to, would be paint as broad a brush as you can. Let as many people pursue whatever business model idea that they want to, in the same way that somebody might open a shoe store or a donut shop or a barber shop, like a small business, and make it affordable, paint a broad brush, because the reality is, out of 10 small businesses that would start on January 1st of 2018, on the January 1st of 2019, only one of them is likely to still be in business. The reality is a lot of people fail at having a small business. So paint with as broad a brush and give as many people as possibly want to give it a shot the chance to fail. And then whoever's standing at the end, those are the people who know what the fuck they're doing. But don't just paint this brush that millionaires can play, mom and pops are fucked, but I mean, like that. I know. I have a.
Say whatever you want.
I'm bad. It's the interweb. No
one listens.
And people would be people would lose their heart their love affair with me if I wasn't a foul mouthed trucker with a heart of gold. So what are we going to do?
Expect nothing less.
But
I'm loving it already, and you've been hearing this sort of all is lost for the last 10 minutes, and I have to say that. If any industry, and I hate calling it industry, but if any, group can, maybe create things differently and has creativity and has morals and, it's us and this cannabis and sort of this we think differently, we think broadly. So let's do it. Let's not, allow our roots to be corporatized and let's fight as hard as we can. And I think like you were saying, having allies and even if maybe you felt competition or you had that one altercation with the person in your community, it's time to get about that estranged bedfellows and unite. And hopefully, we can set an example because, it is nerve wracking. It's very just as a microcosm and the whole, what's happening with consolidation of wealth.
Well, I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job. It sounds like, and I'm glad you're joined up with James. And you're on the team basically. What's that static coming? Is that on me or is that you?
I can hear it.
That's you?
And I don't like it.
It's on the other end.
Oh.
Oh.
It's Nat, bro. You sound Nat, man. You're messing up your sound, bro. No, it's okay. But no, it sounds like you guys are doing awesome. What's a good website for you guys, people to find you and what you guys are doing and all that?
Sorry, I think
stuff.
the noise, I had to charge my phone. It was at 1%. Did it stop now?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's better now.
Okay.
You got 1%. So that's you got plenty.
No, now I'm back up. I'm back up. Yeah, well, I'm out in the middle of nowhere on Wi-Fi. So, my website, www.humboldtseed. So it's humboldtseedcompany.com. And check us out. Instagram is the Humboldt Seed Company.
Okay.
And then we've got YouTube and all that good stuff.
Nice. And you going to be coming out to Colorado anytime soon? You got any chance to leave? Got to leave at some point.
Yeah. I'm sure within the next few months. And
nice.
I will definitely look you up.
Yeah, well, for sure. If you're coming through, and especially if it's on Friday, we can get you on the show. That'd be great while you're here. If not, just kind of hang out. Great. That's also nice.
Yeah.
So we'll link up for sure.
You guys getting snow? Because it seems like the drought's back.
Today at my house.
Where she lives, it always snows. Cool. She's up in the mountains, but
we're
down here.
No, it's been pretty bleak. I mean, it's been grim, but today we actually got some snow.
It's been a really rough year here. A lot of slopes have nothing, right? I mean, they're pretty much.
No, I mean
they're hurting.
I live 11 miles from an abandoned ski resort, and I could ski in the backcountry, but it's been I didn't really want to die.
Wow.
There's just
rocks still.
Yeah, things are just exposed, and then there's things that are not quite exposed that are even worse.
Right.
So I wait till I like there to be a good base, and there's been. Every time it's even snowed, even if it snowed a foot, it's just melted so quick there hasn't really been a good base. And so there's icy spots and then there's bare spots. And both of those are fraught with peril.
Yeah, sure.
These are the only bones I'm going to have. I've broken enough of them.
Sounds good. So,
well, hey, you guys.
Talk soon, Nat.
Thank you so much, man. This has been great.
Yeah,
and
thanks for sharing.
We got deep into it, and but there's hope, I think. So yeah, message to folks that might be listening in, just don't let the industry slip through our fingers. And I know we won't. So.
Yeah, no, I think, and like I said, you're in the front lines. There's a few, spots in America that are just kind of like either here it's kind of, because of the timing and everything, and obviously more than anything, but California is always on everybody's mind when it's cannabis. And then when you start thinking of California, where do you think of, if you know good weed, you're going to say Humboldt, you know what I mean? And that's going to be the next thing. If you're Mendocino, Humboldt, those areas, but Humboldt is even, I think, before Mendocino, even in my mind, even though I think
a very positive thing that I can say when I look at California and the way that their industry will grow, it's a big state. It's a huge state. So they can't have some of the myopic viewpoint that ruined regulation in Colorado was
we don't have enough people.
The business people that wrote a lot of the regulation, and I used air quotes on business people because I think that a lot of people who sold drugs for a living on the black market were actually kind of fucking smart. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I digress. But the business people basically all viewed the entire market of the state of Colorado as like a 100-mile strip along the Front Range. They didn't view it as, these little small towns and these little locations. If you lived in these little locations, fuck you. And if you lived in the city, you were going to buy from one of these chain shops. And, now we're at the point where in Colorado, within 5 years, 1 out of every 20 shops is a chain. From what being every shop was 800 individual shops, 5 years ago. So that's, just something that has been a unfortunate fact that all the mom and pops got bought up by the people who had a lot of money because of the way they wrote the vertical integration in our bill. What I think is great about California is you have existing people in existing communities who already have relationships and consumer relationships. And so somebody's going to get smart and put the shop together, and that person's probably going to make most of the money in the industry. But hopefully the growers will be able to, cooperatize and be like, hey, we got 8 dudes. This guy's got, a couple family members that are really good with the public, that are really good at retail. Let's put them in the storefront, and let's keep our business model local. And I think that can work because you are spread out enough that it would be impossible. Vertical integration really won't work there. You could build a brand and be a grower there in a way that really wasn't possible in Colorado, so I'm encouraged by that as a prospect.
Well, good. I've really appreciated all your insight because it seems pretty spot on. So
I've spent a lot of time in the legislature. If you listen to the rest of this show, you'll probably be like, "Oh God."
Don't listen to her anymore.
No.
I'm gonna listen.
Well, I'm gonna get.
So I just wanted to.
I'm gonna get conspiracy theory on some bullshit.
Good.
Tinfoil.
I'll get my foil hat on.
Exactly.
It's not that bad, but there's some crazy shit in the pipeline legislatively here.
I believe it.
Some Blade Runner 2049 shit.
Yeah, that's what
close
happens.
enough to Area 51. But I just want to return the
right
invite.
In the middle between us and you.
You guys come to Humboldt.
Sure.
Come see us. We do in the summer. We have beautiful gardens and we have gorgeous rivers. And
river rafting.
I'll take you guys out.
River rafting.
We'll do some river rafting. And
I like to do sporty outdoor shit. You know that.
Yeah, I can tell just by looking at you. Sounds good, Nat. It was awesome to talk to you. And we'll get you back on the show again. And like I said, if you come through town, we'll definitely get you on the show live in the studio.
That sounds fun.
Awesome.
All right.
Hey, thanks. Okay, so now we finally got a chance. You have no chance to do nothing now because you still have to like reload, or what do you got to do?
I'm going to update real quick.
Are other people calling in?
I'm going to update real quick, and then if people want to try and call in.
They may have questions about my diatribe, or they may just want to say, move on, go back to the nice young man from Humboldt.
Yeah, it was way more fun to listen to. Now I had to I blew out my speakers on my thing.
And I'll try not to shriek.
All right. So, you just do that.
Right.
Tell us when we're possible to.
Happening right now.
It's happening.
What's happening?
Well, we had to.
Are we buffering?
No, Skype updated and it ruined me.
Ruined him.
Are we still
Ruined his whole
on the-
reputation. He was doing so good.
Is this all
I
just a
know.
fantasy?
Now everyone thinks I'm kind of a slacker. Or
Now he's
something.
he's already the worse than the kid.
I'm already the worst.
Worse than the
That kid made me a fancy drink at your party. It was pretty. It was
KTI?
swanky. Yeah, it was nice to see him.
Oh,
and he
that's
made
not the
me
kid though. The kid is the kid.
The kid is the kid.
Ryan.
Oh,
Ryan. He wants so the kid wants to do his own show.
Yeah, they all think they're fucking.
The kid said he wants to do
They're gonna
kid,
kill
dude,
it.
The kid wants to do his own show with the kid, and so I have to get the approval.
I want to do my own show.
If everybody wants to say yes, they want to see the kid do the kid in the corner. I don't know where we're going. The kid in the corner show would be all right, I think.
Kid in a vid.
Kid in the corner show, we'll call it. That's it. All right. If he wants to do it, we can do it. But we have to get if people want to
Just send him down there in front of the Metlo.
If people want
all the
to
weirdos.
vote on that, if they want to vote on the kid in the corner, if that's a good enough show, we'll do a
Good.
he's in the
I'd
cipher.
let him pick his own name. He
No.
might want to just like
No, that's gonna
dick
be
punch you after being painted into the corner.
He hates it. He's gonna hate it. Dude, my name.
That sucks.
It's gonna already start. Fighting is gonna right out of the gate. The way you put me in the corner. This you did that on purpose.
Enough of this joking around.
All right, tell us all the fucking lame shit. All right, so when and where, what you did? You were there today. Today was the day, right?
No, it opened on Wednesday.
No, so it's been like.
That's
days,
why I've had a
days.
chance to review 145 some bills that have been introduced in
I
the
know you
first
said that. I was
48
like, holy
hours.
fuck.
No, because
Oh,
lobbyists.
that's everything though. That's not just cannabis.
No, like just the ones that are just about cannabis.
Nine.
There are
11 or 9.
about 9. You're actually accurate. So yes, about, yeah.
I made up 11. I said 9.
You were pretty close. And if we take into account the ones that are about taking funding from cannabis, it does get to about 14. So 1 out of every 10 bills is basically either about cannabis or taking money from cannabis in the Colorado's legislators' first 48 hours. That's kind of really what you need to know. But like I do this data mining thing where I start looking through the legislative bills, and on the first night, 19% of the bills had the word drugs, and 15% of the bills had the word marijuana, versus 4% of the bills had the word roads, which are a big problem in Colorado, and 2% of the word had the word guns, and all of those were about increasing the amount of ammunition you could have or bring a gun to go to school. So that's really why our government is fucked, because they're basically like marijuana, and they are not focusing on, the things that are actually going to be useful to people who live here. So basically the things that are coming in the pipeline are they want marijuana to be publicly traded, like at the New York Stock Exchange. That was the first marijuana bill. It was one of the first 11 bills introduced in the state Senate, or in the state House, which basically means that it was a huge priority for getting pushed through. I think that's going to be interesting because it's going to basically make all of this, speculative money come in and out of some of these businesses in a way that's going to be, obviously that bill was not written in the wake of Jeff Sessions and his hissy fit. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I think people in Colorado, I will preface this by just starting by saying people in Colorado need to remember the Cole memo has nothing to do with any of our Colorado state legislation. All of our legislation is based on the Ogden memo, which predates it. So, la.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A little backstory there. But no, it's true because most other states...
are post-Cole.
Exactly.
We are the only state that legalized recreational sales prior to the Cole memo being issued.
Right.
So that is something that we should all just, I kind of want to say that because everyone from the industry has all been like, Jim Burek has our back. Did you see the note he put out saying, Jim Burek being the director of the Marijuana Enforcement Division for listeners out there, he put out a note saying that the Cole memo won't undermine the regulation that's based upon it. And I was like, you absolute ass. You run the entire division, and you don't know that none of the licenses that you've issued are based on that memo. And you think that they are, and you're going to defend us against it being revoked. But it doesn't make any fucking difference. Anyway, I digress. We'll go back to the public trading of cannabis. So basically it would be something where I don't know if you would be on like an online trading or actually publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, which I believe they would like to do, but of course the New York Stock Exchange will probably have final say in whether or not they give a, you know, that's a huge factor. So that's the first thing that was introduced. Also, they have introduced a bill to use reclaimed or gray water to grow industrial cannabis plants for sale in the state of Colorado. I don't find that too alarming. You know, it's, I would hope that it was clean, but, you know, filtered, blah, 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 by the person who was going to do that if they were somebody who was going to ultimately sell that to the public. But I don't know that, I don't have a lot of insights about that. I just don't object to anybody really trying to use water efficiently in this state, so I don't have a problem with it. But so far, I don't see anything about it that's really that shocking or controversial. It's just reclaimed water. I don't think you're going to be allowed to flush your toilet right into a plant. But, well, I mean, you do remember several months ago, some people were busted for a plant for a grow that was
had fecal matter.
Yeah, well, yes, it was being fertilized with poop. So got caught with their pants down.
Literally.
And see, you tell me I don't fucking joke around.
You just pooped straight
That
into
was
it.
hilarious. Hilarious, motherfuckers.
Hilarious. Okay.
All right. I will keep rolling with the completely not funny follow-up statement. They also want to offer the ability to use the reclaimed water for hemp growing. And those are, you know, positive things for agricultural hemp. I think that's going to be a much more positive thing because it's common to use gray water in agricultural outdoor projects.
Right.
I'm not sure how they would acquire enough to really run an indoor grow on, but that's a whole other story.
They just want to throw anything they can at it. Like, oh yeah, we'll give you,
and we'll make money.
And we'll give you guys the worst water.
Yes.
They'll still say yes.
So, much maligned sexual harasser and standalone legislator who basically has been thrown out of the Democratic Party and embraced with loving arms by the Republicans who have no problem with sexual harassers. Steve Lebstock has introduced a tax bill to, it's like a smoke and mirrors bill where he basically says, oh, we're going to lower the marijuana tax rate to 12.1%, but then marijuana sales, which have been exempt from paying the state 2.9% sales tax, would pay that. So you're still going to be paying 15% in tax. It's just, it doesn't really matter. They can do it however they want, but it's sleight of hand. It's basically just changing the tax rate without going to Tabor. And again, I don't really care because I am not going to go into a shop and give anybody 15% of my, like, that's bullshit. So those are like the sort of cannabis-y benign bills. They're also changing the regulatory title. Cannabis has been under Title 12 in the state of Colorado, and now they're going to shift it to Title 44. Again, this is just like bureaucratic crap. It's not going to change anything about the regulation of the industry or stores or anything. It's just going to change the paperwork. And, oh, it's awake again.
Yeah. Tail's wagging.
No, I saw that, and I was like, oh no, he's awake. Stay put. You're in a spot.
Oh my God.
So
cute. See, that's it. The whole show's about him now.
It is. He is fucking cute.
Nobody cares about us anymore.
So now I tried to just like ease us into the pool, but now I'm just going to jump right in about the two bills that were introduced right out of the gate that are just like, I mean, the most like crepulent pile of guano, batshit fucking crazy shit ever. Number one, slightly less batshit crazy, but pretty fucking insane, and from Dan Pabon, my arch nemesis, is a bill to create a cannabis closed-loop payment system. So basically, like, if you want to shop in a store, you will have to register for a state-managed Bitcoin account so that you can buy weed. Not that they're tracking consumers, but basically it's this closed loop so that they can make sure that all the money gets taxed properly and sent, like, it's just insane. That makes no sense whatsoever. Like, do you have to have a special Bitcoin to go to a bar or go get a drink. I mean, that is certainly not like alcohol, and it would apply to medical users as well as recreational users. So basically, your kid has leukemia, but you better go like put some money into the ATM and register it over to be these cannabis bitcoins, and then they can tell where you went to go buy a bit.
That's stupid.
So, well, it's stupid, but it's part of this. It dovetails with the short-sighted stupidity that I'm going to follow up with. And
more stupid.
It's way. Now, okay, now we're going to go into the thing that I've been in a freak out about. And I think I'm legit for freaking out about it.
Okay.
Dan Pabon, again, arch nemesis and enemy of marijuana, who bills himself as a friend of the industry, which tells you that the industry is an enemy of patients and cannabis growers and fucking marijuana in general. But that's just my opinion, based on 100% of my personal experiences. And basically, they have introduced a bill where the University of, I don't know if it's University of Colorado or a CSU offshoot in Pueblo, but one of the schools down in Pueblo, will be given grant money by the state of Colorado from the Law Enforcement Development Fund to create a inside the plant genetic modification marker so that they can tell which, and then anyone in the industry for both cannabis and hemp will have to put that genetic marker in their plants. There's not one word in the 7-page bill about how that would be if it was combusted or concentrated or consumed by a human being, because that's not really important to them, because the point of the bill, and it says, the bill will be intended to ensure that the state of Colorado receives all revenue coming from it by eliminating the black market, so that like any cop in law enforcement will just have this scanner and they'll be able to be like, oh, bro, blah, 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 and open up your jar and scan it and be like, wait a second, this is missing the radioactive isotope. I mean, and it even says in this bill that one of the markers that the university can consider, it gives them 7 parameters, and that includes genetic modification of the plant, inserting a genetic alteration from another plant, like making it glow in the dark, a watermark that stays in the plant, nano RFIDs that are inside the fibers of the plant. So I'm just thrilled about the concept of smoking a nano RFID,
right,
or like eating a concentrated nano RFID, and then it's going to be in my poop, and you're going to track me out of the toilet at like Torchies when I go across the street. I don't fucking know. It's quite insane. And like, I know that when I say some of this stuff, like I am because I say crude shit like that. But the fact is, like, yeah, I don't want to think that you could take a drop of my blood and our RFID, this came from the douchebags at Livewell, which I'm going to say as a side note, fuck Livewell, don't shop there. They are one of the douchiest, worst companies in the state. Dean Heisinger, I'm going to dick punch you eventually. He's their attorney.
There you go.
I digress.
You heard it here live.
Yes.
Dick punch.
Dick punch.
Dick punch
coming
section.
up.
Dick
punch for Dean coming up. But he's up to some douchebaggery, and that's all I'm legally allowed to say about that. Anyway, I digress. You're basically these people in the industry are supporting this bill to basically make cannabis. Oh, I should finish that. One of the other things that they can use as a marker for the plant is a radioactive isotope. So you're gonna get your fucking chemo and your fucking relief from your chemo all in one fucking joint. It's going to be a dream come true.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of these things to me are like...
That's retarded. It's
not just retarded, it's like insane. The cost of one of these single scanners just to fucking look at this is probably going to be way more tax dollars spent than will be saved by just like looking the other way because somebody has a 14th or 15th plant.
Yeah, and just... the overall...
I believe that between the Bitcoin and the scanning of your genetically modified plant, the goal is to completely say, well, now we have these ways to track the legal weed. These people should not have these home grows because that's where all the illegal weed comes from.
Right.
Even though the Med released on, I think, December 15th, their mid-year report from the first of the year through June for 2017. And if you look at the document, it shows that the Marijuana Enforcement Division has given more medically relevant licenses than retail licenses for recreational sales. And the medical grows have grown only maybe 60% as many plants as the retail recreational industry. So they have less stores, more plants, and way less volume of flower sales. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of like, if you have metric, and if you can make this graph, and you can't figure out where diversion is coming from, and metric isn't telling you that diversion is coming from the fact that these people have a shit ton more plants and way less sales, I don't know how to help you. What are you looking at?
Nothing. I'm trying to just pushing buttons.
I also want to say that this being my first time here, I'm glad that I intuitively knew what color to wear so that I would just look like a floating head like Zombie.
That's the idea.
That I would just blend in with the background of the wall. Next time I'll be more prepared. But
that was the idea.
Nobody knew. This was just my own natural instinctive zeal for teal.
You knew it. You knew it. Psychically, she was like...
I am. I'm in the Friend Network. Me and Dionne Warwick are tight like that.
Floating heads are my specialty now. This thing doesn't work. So anyway...
So what's happening? Nothing's happening. The show isn't really happening.
No,
this
it's
is just
happening.
This is all just... Somebody's paying you for the psychological effort of just getting me in somewhere to rant about this, and then I'll shut up about it later.
All the lawyers are in the other room right now, waiting to dick punch you on the way out. They're like, yeah, I'll give you a dick punch.
I still have a bigger dick than those attorneys.
I'll get 10 grand for every guy you insult. I'm already up to like 30 now. Right?
So that's your new sponsorship program?
Yeah, exactly.
Bring in Jessica for fucking punch in the uterus so she doesn't reproduce. Don't worry, gentlemen, I'm already too old.
So that was my original plan, to sponsor the show for the rest of the year.
I think it's a solid idea. I'm sure. I don't think attorneys are probably going to want to dick punch me. They often find my insight about the industry useful.
Okay, this might be Mr. Normal. Is it Normal? Ah, there he is.
So we're being joined. Look at that, and his timing is good. Although I am going to double back about something.
That was the hardest. Hello? Yo. You hear me? What's going on?
It's a solid idea.
What's happening? Hey, turn that shit down in the background. What's going on? You hear me? Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
What is up? That was the hardest phone call in the world.
Hello? Yo.
Turn that down in the back. Come on. Hold on. Oh my God.
Fish tank?
You got to turn your speaker off in the back there.
Mr. Normal, come on. How old are you? Jeez.
I don't have the speaker on, but I can't hear you.
I heard some echoing in the background. So, all right, now you can't hear me at all. Come on,
you can't hear us.
I can hear you now.
You see, you did have the speakers. It was a lie. I know. I can tell when people lie. Right away.
It sounded like a fish tank.
Fish tank. We were in the fish tank. Hey, what's happening, Mr. Normal?
Not much, man. Just hanging out, watching you guys BS. Figured I'd bug you, see what's new.
I know. You bugged us like how many times did you try to call? 300 times. That's a world record, right? I think you did a world record attempt, but yeah, we're trying to slowly figure it out. Luckily, now that we're updated, does it work? You think?
I don't know.
We don't even know.
I don't even know if someone calls.
If someone else tries to call, then maybe we'll find out. Maybe we finally solved this puzzle. But yeah,
we'll give it a try.
We had some tech issues going on. But how's life there?
Things are good here.
Yeah,
We're just getting ready to. We're getting ready to put out some new products that are actually like some boosters.
Oh, really?
For the later flowering stages, and actually going legit with that. Working on patent attorney stuff right now. So
nice. Like, is it animal based, or is it like guano or something, or
is it vegan?
Well,
it's gonna be bioorganic. It's gonna be a little bit of both.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna use raw elements and then some other things that we're trying to figure out how to make them work together, because
some Russian stuff, some crazy Russian stuff that's in a silver bottle.
No, I know what you're doing. But Clark has got a paragraph in his book about this Russian study. I'll tell you about how they did this container study about more females off of males from seed. But now what we're doing is it's stuff we've been testing over 15 years, and we got a bunch of people involved that have been running it, and we've been pushing our resins, trying to get, our populations to really be maximized, more or less. And so instead of working with, 7 different company products, we're devising our own. And it's basically 3 parts. You got the one pre-flower that kind of charges your pre-flower situation. Then you got your mid-bloom booster, and then you got your finisher. So, and we're still working on all of it. There's not a whole lot I can say beyond that right now, but it is definitely in the works. So I'm curious to get it to people to test it and see how it does for them. And
well, there you go. Maybe what we should do is have you on a show, and we'll get some testers out. Well, when are you gonna be ready with that? Because if we could get some out to some people sooner than later, we can actually have them call in like a week or 2 later, and tell us how dead their plants are. Dude, all dead, bro. That guy shit sucks.
The bottle came and it gave me mites.
Exactly. Comes with russets and everything.
I'm giving myself a cushion on my jacket. This bench is unforgiving.
The good thing is it works along with your nutrients, so you're not exactly bombarding your plants with bizarre.
And it's late flower, you said too, right? So someone has to be in there like 5th week or something like that.
What was that?
Around the 5th week, something like that. You'd be adding in your products. Average.
Yeah, actually, I've got a little. Here, hold on a second, and I'll pull up my info on it.
Info.
I got a bunch of questions I had for you too, but we got to save that for a different situation.
Yeah, Jessica's got lots on her mind. She's freaking out. She's about to explode right now. So I gotta
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
No, actually, this is good because this is filler, and then it makes me seem interesting again.
Oh, good. You're back to being interesting. Oh, I see. It's like that. I got you. So anyway, the product line, you think you're gonna be ready by like springtime? Well, actually not springtime, but I guess would be people outdoors. We need it later in the
hopefully
July, August, something.
Yeah, hopefully early summer. That's what we're shooting for.
Right.
And yeah, the first one would be, anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks before you flip into a week or 2 after you flip. You could use the pre-flower, and the other ones like between weeks 3 and 6, and the last ones your final 7 to 10 weeks, depending on if you're doing an indica or sativa long run.
Gotcha.
So the instruction's super simple, and like I said, it gets used along with your nutrient system. So it's just something to kind of to boost things and get them to kind of finish the way that we've been working on it. So it kind of your plant leaches at the same time, so your resins finish at the same time, and so that the effect profile kind of matches with the way the plant's supposed to be is the goal. So
right. So match it instead of having it force fed with your peers,
oh my god, man. So is it me, or is it just like everybody out there is showing a nipple picture of a bud on the top of a plant? They won't even show the whole plant. They show this little nipple bud.
I saw you posting that online the other day.
Yeah, and it's like, show the whole plant.
Show the whole titty, not just the nipple, for fuck's sake.
Oh, it's such a big tease. And it's like, I can grow a nipple with a bunch of resin on it.
Yeah.
That's not really what I want to do. But I'd rather grow a full plant with a cola.
Well, yeah, everybody's
properly covered in mature resins rather than force everything and hurry it up.
It's the cannabis photographic equivalent of a not hot chick taking a selfie that makes her look hot.
Pretty much.
Oh, God. Yikes.
Well, and it's also the combination. Everybody's got like nicer and nicer phone cameras, and they can really take good close-ups, but they're not really great at like taking a picture.
Word. By the way, Happy New Year, guys.
Hey, thank you, man. So
and the one thing that messed me up when I came to Colorado in like 2013 or 12, or when I first met with you, and I know you know John well, and he's a really good friend. Of course. And definitely knows his shit. But when I was taking on the tours of a couple of the facilities, like Tierra's was on point. He knew what he was doing. Phil had a clue. But one thing that messed me up, man, is I went to a couple other places, and they literally had 4-week flowered plants they were trimming to put in their
Wow.
for sale.
That's definitely like a failed setup there in any way, shape, or
Yeah,
form.
I couldn't believe it. I mean,
Probably
I tried
had some bugs. Probably had bugs or something, and we're just trying to like sacrifice what they could or something. Sounds like.
Don't make excuses for industry shortcomings. Let them fucking hang for their activity.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, no, Adam was. He was like, oh, I hope that wasn't one of my sponsors.
No.
Don't let anybody slide. Bad
It's
track
funny 'cause
record
it
is bad
somebody
track record.
everybody kind of knows. He's got a reputation. And the cool part about it is me and him, one of their main master growers, had a talk on the way to the facility about NPK formulas. And it was cool to watch him like develop the theory over years and watch him literally go from, trimming up plants like that to showing plants that were actually properly productive.
Yeah, well, I mean.
So that's kind of a cool part of it.
There's a whole bunch
I
of
have a
failures.
pretty good guess in my mind of who he's talking about.
Oh, right out of the gate. There you go. You figured it out. She's already like.
No, I just know.
Dun, dun.
I've dealt with some scumbaggery.
So there's a lot.
They were good guys. I just think they were kind of clueless on what was going on, which I couldn't believe because, I mean, Jesus, give them a facility and licensing and all this. And
right, couldn't even pull it off.
See, they aren't actually good guys. They're what we call profiteers.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I know.
Yeah,
it's
that's
horrible.
no good.
Well, no, but I mean, like, you don't deserve to get paid if you don't put the time in to make a quality product.
Oh, for sure.
So that's I mean, like, if you're going to cut down a plant just because we got to fill these jars and it's not ready and it's not pretty and it's not really good.
Right.
You don't get to call yourself a good guy or a grower. You get to call yourself a profiteer. There's a difference.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know you. I just jump in here and say exactly what I think.
It's okay.
Yeah, we're more caregivers. We got some people that pretty much, I mean, I'm on disability and I use it personally for quite a few things, for mental issues. And it works fine for me. I've got to use it in conjunction with medications, but I'm working with CBDs and stuff to try to round all that stuff, away and try to keep more natural because the pills definitely suck.
I concur.
But,
I say more power to you. I think that's great. And I'm just saying that I'm judgmental as hell about people who are in the industry and cut corners. And I don't let anybody slide on the idea that you might be a good guy if you weren't just like trying to sell patients something that wasn't really quite good enough.
For sure. And that's kind of what threw me when CBDs came out, because to me, I thought CBD actually canceled out the effect of THC, was my kind of early understanding. And so I guess that wasn't completely correct. And then the way that it affects you without actually having a physical effect, or if it does, it's, you don't get the actual, euphoric effects that you get from THCA or, just THC. So there was a lot to learn for us there. But back in the day, if you got a mild pot that really didn't get you high, you were like, nah, this isn't going to work. But nowadays it's like, well, let's test it for CBD and see if it has something more valuable than we're understanding. And so that just threw a whole new monkey wrench into the system. So we're testing a bunch of stuff that we've had for years and just seeing how that plays out. Because like the original Purple Indica, that Pacific Northwest Purple Indica is going back to Pacific, and the first 2 or 3 G13s released. And so we want to get that tested up and see what's really going on inside that plant.
Yep, another great mystery. The great mystery of the G13. You can if you crack the code, that's another whole show right there. So,
well,
here's
the thing:
spouting off shows left and right
for a little bit. And the only reason I got involved with it was because of Guru of Kings of Canna a long time ago, and then he turned me on to something called the Purple G BX3, and the story was that Pacific, the grower, breeder, gave him 2 cuts that were both labeled G13, one turned purple. So Pacific labeled one the PG13 and the other was the Purple Indica. And then you have the original, which was supposed to be said to be the Airborne, which came from, the Mississippi facility or whatnot, was smuggled out and who knows what. But my my kind of feel is they wanted to hybrid it. They had the cut of the AB, and so they bred it to something, and that's what became the offspring was the PG-13 and the PI. So my guess is they bred it to something purple and probably Hawaiian because of the way it acts, sort of. And then I haven't seen the AG-13 on its own yet, so I've only made my assumptions through the PG and the purple indica. But there is a backstory there that kind of is on paper now that some people said, yeah, that's kind of what happened. So now it's just a matter of finding out what the AG is really about and if that was for real or not. So
sounds like another show. Like I said.
Well, buddy, I got a bunch of them if you need. How about the idea that purple tie isn't a chocolate tie crossed to the hog? How about if purple tie is actually the chocolate tie was an actual hybrid to begin with? So chocolate tie is a tie crossed to a chocolate Colombian. And that's the question I got to pose to DJ Short because I've met him once, but I was too scared to pose the question to him.
He's the perfect guy actually for that question too because he's such a Highland sort of sativa and indica kind of guy that he's definitely. That's his passion. So anyway,
sure.
We're gonna run because we gotta let Jessica give her. She thought she had a whole hour now. She's cut down. She's crying over here. She's about to explode.
We'll
talk.
I am not crying.
We will talk soon. I'm gonna drop.
All right. I'm sorry. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, my friend. We'll talk soon. I'm glad you could actually get through finally.
You got it, man. All right. Take care, you guys.
No problem. Take care.
All right. Ciao.
Peace.
All
right, back to Jessica. Now, just slap everybody around, wake them up. They're all just dozing. They're driving along.
I thought that your average audience was salivating for that kind of deep strain detail.
They are. They're like, wait a minute, get that guy back. Get rid of this bitch.
Yes.
Oh no, they would never.
More nitty gritty, less titty. Come on. All right. So let's talk about. We're going to shift gears. That actually was a nice little break in between the bills that have been released. Now I'm going to switch over to some things that are going on with the CDPHE, which is the holder of the medical marijuana registry for state of Colorado. Okay. So you probably remember that I was a little bit peevish with certain people who may be douchebags. For testifying in favor of 1220, the plant cap bill last year. And one of the cop-out bullshit excuses that those people used when we confronted them and said, hey, that sucked. That was a bullshit thing to do in the name of cannabis consumers to say we could only have 12 plants in our house. They said, oh, we did that so PTSD could be on the medical marijuana registry for patients. That was 10 months ago. Today, medical marijuana is not on the registry for marijuana patients. If you have PTSD, you cannot get on the, if you send in your card right now saying, hey, I saw that bill passed, it's still not part of the registry because it still hasn't been approved by the Board of Health. And on Wednesday, the 17th, so that's coming up next week, the Department of Health, CDPHE, is going to petition the Board of Health for a hearing in March, which will be a full year since that PTSD bill was signed or passed, that they would have a hearing about whether or not they might honor the bill that was passed and allow it on the registry. To me, that's a pretty huge big deal that we lost our plant count rights because lies were told to people who were ignorant and didn't know that it doesn't matter what they say. You stand the ground for patients, and you say that medical necessity supersedes whatever cockamamie idea you want to impose on plant counts. It's not you can't take away a patient's medicine. It's just not right. And so basically we'll find out on Wednesday whether or not the state will hold a hearing to honor the intent of the legislation, which actually they had the same exact scenario in 2010, and PTSD was denied being on the registry then. So people who know their history know that this is not new news, but we weren't invited to the table where the boogeyman that, we'll take PTSD away from you, which they never gave it to them in the first place. It was all lies. So I've been very unhappy about that, as you would imagine. They're also going to change so I uncovered this document on the CDPHE request for a Board of Health hearing to change the nature of the registry. It's 33 pages of changes, and one of the other things that they're going to do is they're going to raise the fees again. So they're going to make it more expensive for patients to have their card.
Just for regular old card, nothing even, not talking
There's no difference. A patient with the state of Colorado, it doesn't matter if you had one, I mean, it's not your doctor, it's the registry, so it's just the cost of administering. But what's ironic is that they're trying to say everybody has to be on this online system, which I have spoken out against and said boo, boo, boo to.
I know, I saw that.
Many times. I know it's repetitive, but it's important that people know that the system is flawed and in the cloud and lets people access your HIPAA medical records and shit like that, which is fucked up. Basically, that flawed system that I've been opposed to, they say everybody has to use that. They fired 5 employees that were administering the issuing of the purple card that was they had the red card, then the purple card, now the online system. And they fired all of the people who had history of working there and working with patients and knowing how that system worked because they didn't need them. They hired an IT specialist to manage the online system. Well, the gist of that ends up being that they hired this IT person to manage that. They couldn't deal with all the patients. The patient system is way backlogged, but now they want to raise the price again. You fired everybody. The price didn't drop when you fired everybody, but you saved the cost of 5 fucking salaries. What the fuck? Like, even if you only hired one person to replace 5 people that you fired, you got 4 more salary things to go before you raise the cost of my card again, because my price didn't go down when the...
4 salary things?
Yeah.
4 salary things.
What do you do?
3, because you want to give a little deal, right? You have to go like,
you have,
you gotta
yeah, you have 4 slots in HR if you prefer my statement being phrased.
2 and give me my 3. That's what I was saying.
I'm just saying that they shouldn't be raising the price of the card.
You were a little rough. You were a little rough.
I'm always a little rough.
That was a little lottie.
I'm a little bit country and I'm a little bit rock and roll. You know this.
A lot like there. We just took advantage right out of the gate. Anyway.
You like that.
Telling me what I like now. All right, anyway.
It's got pickles. You like pickles.
So this plant count thing, it's kind of still in a liquid form where it's not quite there yet?
No, they've been enforcing the fuck out of it since the first.
But
one of my patients, they came to his house and cut down 3 of his plants to get him compliant.
To 12 plants? Or
yeah.
And that was in the city of Denver? Or
yeah.
That was, yeah, okay. Well,
with two adults living in the household.
I know, that's bullshit. Anyway, but at least I was in Denver. Now, what about...
well, you saw what happened in Teller. You saw there's been a bust in El Paso. There's been a bust in Pueblo. All of the sheriffs of those 3 departments specifically said that they had received money over the summer and that they had used that money to compile a hit list of illegal grows and basically waited until after January 1st to start going after people. The sheriff of Pueblo County went on record saying that he feels like now he has to really up his mandate to do more marijuana busts. That is not what the point of voting for legalization was. Like, to that now these sheriffs in these rural departments are going apeshit. And, they all, I mean, the sheriff of Teller County, which is a very, very low population, says he wants to do 26 busts, which is 1 every 2 weeks. Even if he does 26 busts, that's so not going to be consequential in the overall cannabis market of Colorado.
Right.
But it's going to cost the local taxpayers in a very low population where the property taxes are a big issue.
Yeah.
He was given $93,000 by the state. So $93,000 might cover 1 of his 26 busts. It's not going to pay for all of them. And then they got the prosecutors and they got all the other things that are going to get paid for. And that all gets paid for out of local property taxes. So it's a huge issue that this bill... one of the reasons we want to go in and fight it in court is that the cost to rural communities far outstrips the funding provided by the state. And so rural taxpayers are just going to pick up the tab to pay the extra cost of busting their neighbors when we don't give a fuck. We voted that we wanted them to be able to grow their weed, and we really don't care.
Yeah, and it sucks because there's kind of... Colorado's been one of those weird states, in my opinion, where it's like I never felt like it was really accepting anywhere, really. It's like very few places where you got like 100% acceptance where you'd be like, okay, this is cool. It'd be like little towns here and there, but for the most part, it was like kind of like a lot of pushback.
Well, I mean, even in Netherlands, they had that horrible town administrator, Alicia, who went around and created fake rules that SafeServe could go into anybody's house without a warrant to check their electric panel in Netherlands.
Right.
Like, you have got to be shitting me. You are absolutely a lunatic. You know, how did, and you are not elected. You just got hired from this job, and then
right.
you ran amok.
Right.
And felt entitled to just be judgmental of potheads. And, you know, this was the whole thing. Like, this is my whole argument that, to our friend in California and anybody out there, like, the whole point was so potheads could come out of the closet and have opportunities and not go to jail and maybe get better freaking jobs and, like, have more opportunities. Not that we had to become clean-cut assholes, but that we could still be who we always were and come out of the closet. And I am so fucking irate that all of these usurpers are all like, this is a product for nice people. Not like those other people that had the marijuana before us. I'm like, dick punches all around and uterine, like, fucking, you know, knees to the uterus for everyone who thinks that way. I hate them all. And, you know, just like, I get so mad with these people who are like, well, now cannabis is for nice people. And now cannabis is for people who are, you know, have good jobs. Because you're still not going to get shit, dirtbag. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was marginalized for 35 fucking years. I came out of the closet for a freaking minute. Mm-hmm. And now I got to get back the fuck in there? Hell the fuck no. I've always been a loud-ass bitch. This is not going to stand. You know? And I'm sick of this whole attitude that cannabis should be sanitized. I want to make more people dirty. I want to make being a loudmouth, foul-mouthed, absolutely irreverent person totally mainstream and eligible for a fucking better job. You know, fuck this shit.
Well, the thing is, and we've created an industry from the scratch. You know, that's like one of those things where it's
yeah, but you don't go in and see people like you and me like working in a fucking
no, of course not. But
anywhere in the industry, not just in a shop, but anywhere.
No, well.
People who have history and street cred have been largely eliminated.
In a sense, yes.
And I mean, I self-eliminated because I hated all the other people that were coming in because they weren't people like you and me that I could relate to.
Well, you know, and the influences hopefully are there. We've influenced here and there. That's about it.
Oh, bullshit.
No?
It's a bunch of wankers. I mean, seriously, like, where would we go? Like, if we left right, it's still before 7. We could leave right now. Where would you want to go? I can't think of anywhere that's within a 5-mile radius that I'd want to even walk through the freaking door of. And I mean, no offense to anybody out there listening, but like, I just, if you're cool, you haven't made that impression on me.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Cece trying to hit me up as usual.
Well, she's actually nice. I would pay attention to her. I'm just over here ranting and saying that people are assholes. But I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong.
No. So besides RFID / isotope / whatever that
watermark, genetic watermarks, or modification.
Yeah, they wanted to
insert a tomato marker. I don't fucking know.
Exactly.
And I mean, how is that going to work on like a joint? That's after all ground up, and it's still somehow you're going to be able to tell that was. Mm-hmm. I mean, fuck. That's just ridiculous. But they want it.
It's disgusting.
If you actually read the actual verbiage of the bill, which I believe is Senate Bill 18029, but I'm not positive. But I put good money that I believe it's called developing marijuana tracking technology is the name of the Colorado bill. So if you go to the Colorado legislator website and search that, it's actually, because of my efforts to get people to pay attention to this, is now the most accessed bill of the state legislator so far. So people are reading it and paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's something that is just, it's super dystopian. It's like straight out of Blade Runner 2049. It's like, basically, like, you know, we need to make sure that we're going to get, and the whole attitude of like, this is necessary for the public safety, but there's not one word in the bill about this product must be tested to make sure that no consumer will have an adverse health effect from combusting, concentrating, or eating in a consumption-based method. Like, this
None of those
nano.
things.
No, they don't.
None of
give
those
a-
things sounded safe
It's
by
it's
any means.
it's just it's
or tested. Like
they don't test the weed now. It's a lie. If you look at that remember I was saying that they put out their mid-year report.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the amount of cannabis sold versus the number of batches of weed tested,
yeah.
it's like a joke. This whole thing where they can do this. Well, you passed a test last year, so you can just send us 2 samples this year.
Mm-hmm.
Put out 200 pounds, send us 2 samples, and we'll call your weed tested. And you can pick the 2 samples. It's a fucking joke.
No.
What does he want? He wants.
What does he want? What do you want?
What do he want?
What do you want?
Oh.
Wow.
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 He was just looking at me admiringly. I didn't know what to
Yeah,
think.
you were all
I don't
freaked
even know
out.
what to think when it just
MTI.
doesn't happen enough.
Thank
I
God
was like-
KTI is not
I was
here.
all like looking at him like, wow,
Thank God
something's
KTI
happening
is-
over there. A man is looking at me as if I'm interesting. I don't know what to fucking think. Threw me off a little bit.
Oh man.
Fuck's sake.
If KTI was here, it'd be over because he'd be like.
He likes me. He
I
made me a
know.
fancy cocktail with like
Exactly.
fucking vinegar in it and shit.
She'd be making
Oh,
it work
yeah.
right now. She'd be like, boom.
He
pivot.
encouraged me to poop. I really like that in a dude, you know? It makes me feel real comfortable.
Yeah, the CBD drinks were good though.
They were. It was lovely.
Lovely. Okay. So, what about that? What about things like that, like public consumption, actually being able to go out?
Okay,
and-
so those are the things that are like, now we'll talk about the things that are on the legislative horizon, where I will make wild predictions
Okay,
that
give
will
us-
probably be proven out by like May. So basically, the things, we know that there's a clubs bill that's been written, but only the people who have written it and the unknown sponsor.
Oh, shit. We're at the 3-hour mark.
Is that bad?
I don't care.
It's a 3-hour tour.
I was just showing
3-hour tour. It's all right.
Sit
It's
right
all
back
right.
and I'll tell the tale, the tale of what's coming up.
Okay. We'll
Things
do
that are gonna go
we're gonna
in the
do
legislator
a
that are
bonus,
gonna
the
fuck
bonus,
some shit.
Bonus 15 minutes.
All
how's
right, yeah,
that?
I will wrap this up quick.
Bonus 15 minutes.
There's actually some important shit that I haven't gotten to because, you know, that other fucking guy came in, I'm all butthurt, crying, tears.
I'm good. Yeah, no,
Not
keep
you,
going.
you're kosher. You looked at me as if I was interesting. I like you.
Very, very interested.
So, here's the things that we know are going to be issues. We know there's a clubs bill. Only the people who wrote it, which is rumored to be Terrapin Care Station, Cave on Calaberry, and those people. We don't know anything about what the bill says, other than that it excludes any model that's not run by somebody who already has a retail center. So that's kind of douchebaggery, and I disapprove of it in principle without having seen it. I expect we'll see it in the next 2 weeks. The other thing that's going to be the biggest issue for the entire Colorado cannabis industry, both medical and recreational, this is actually going to be legitimately a huge big deal. So this part of the show is probably the most important part about the legislature other than the GMO bullshit that I talked about, which is big.
Breathe, everybody. Take a breath.
Take a breath.
Take a deep.
So, little history, quick history. In 2013, we passed A64 in 2012. In 2013, after A64 had passed, we had a mandate constitutionally to promulgate legislation that would regulate that recreational side of the industry and make it so that those businesses could open in 2014. So all of 2013 was just like a regulatory year, just writing and writing and writing all this stuff. But what's interesting is that in 2000, we'll go back in history, in 2010, when House Bill 10-1284, the original medical marijuana licensing bills for licensing for medical marijuana businesses was written, they built a 3-year sunset in because they're like, this might be a freaking disaster. And so what in Colorado legislation, there's a lot of times when they're not sure how something's going to go, they built a sunset into the bill. And that bill will expire in 3 years or 5 years, depending on the sunset that they choose. So in 2010, they chose a 3-year sunset for 1284. And then they basically renewed it. But when they renewed it was as they were basically like, oh, like how ironic is the timing here? As we're writing this renewal bill, we have to deal with this brand new thing. Let's make both of these other two bills sunset in another, 4 years so that they both expire at the same time, and then we can address, like, do we want to make it all one thing? Legally, you can't make it all one thing because they're two separate constitutional rights that a person has. So making it all one store where medical patients just get a discount is going to be bullshit. And that's my fear. So that's my prediction, that I think that there will be a concerted effort by industry and by the regulatory agency to do away with medical shops and make all shops open to anybody over 21, make it really hard for pediatric patients to access their medicine at all, which is going to suck, make it really hard for all patients to get products that are higher than a 10 milligram potency, which is going to really suck for some people who, I mean, I do not feel that somebody who's sick needs a bunch of sugar and bullshit and the kind of stuff that recreational consumers buy. There's different products for medical consumers. Those things will largely be eliminated. And areas that have banned retail sales may lose the medical stores that they have. So El Paso County may get fucked.
And here there's no deliveries and hardly any places or anything.
Well, 65% of the Colorado counties currently have a complete ban on all sales. So they have no medical sales or no recreational sales. Nothing will really change there. They'll still be dependent on caregivers, except that those caregivers can now only have 12 plants, and the rural sheriffs that administer those counties feel emboldened to go and kick more doors in because of 1220. So nothing will change there except for there'll be less supply, and the demand will be exactly the same, and there will be nowhere that those people can go to a store and buy anything. So that will stay shitty, and basically, I don't think the industry cares, because if there's not enough people living in a concentrated community, the rural areas, you don't have enough people living there to open a chain of your store. So who cares about those people? If they're patients and they're sick, who cares? We'll kick their doors in anyway. And I think that there's just a sort of, like I said earlier, that the problem with Colorado is that they put all of their energy and legislation and focus on that 100 miles from Colorado Springs to Fort Collins, and the rest of the state, anywhere west of there, can just suck a dick. You know, you have a few little good enclaves of some good stuff in Summit County. There's some good shops there, and then the good mom and pops that are there are getting pushed out by native roots in every single town that they're in. And that, you know, to me is just mediocrity spreading and like being like a virus, you know. And some of those places that were those mountain towns, that's where those best shops were, you know. I mean, High Country Healing was always, it had such a great reputation as like a destination shop for great weed. And, you know, the same with Earl's and Leadville and these places. And now they've got a big chain store that's coming in, and it's so much cheaper. And so these little small locals who work for low-wage jobs in rural areas, the power of the purse ultimately speaks volumes, and it's bullshit. Because the good quality weed that some of us who could afford to buy once in a while is no longer really available in the way it once was.
Yeah, well, I mean, it took them a long time to get to Leadville, right? Like, it's pretty.
They've been there a minute.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It's the whole principle that anywhere where there.
But I saw it too when I was driving up that way, and I went through whatever it is.
Silverthorns.
Yeah, it was like, saw how popping off it, like, it was like up, it was all big chainy vibe, and yeah.
And so you're just sort of like, that sucks. Because for me, I live in the mountain towns, and I knew those people. I knew the mom and pops who opened those shops. They were the people who supported my business out of the gate. And I just watched as they, you know, one by one fell by the wayside. And it really hurt my heart, you know, because it was not what I wanted to see. The people I came up with before weed was legal have our chance to succeed. And all of those people are gone. You know, there's maybe a handful of people that are still around that are still, you know, in it to win it, but it's so few and far between. It just is, you know, and then there are a few people who, you know, who came up from the beginning who are still in it, but they're still mediocre. And you're just kind of like, come the hell on. You know, you've had 5 years. Could you not get better? Right. Hello. Could you not listen to the Adam Dunn show and learn how to grow some fucking weed?
So what is the possibility that we're going to get at least our 36 plants, which kind of is what it was written in before as a state sort of. It seemed like that was a state number for a while.
State Bill 15040. That's still subject to the Rob Corey lawsuit involving the mothers from El Paso County. Where we had a few pediatric patients who definitely need more than the 12 plants. So El Paso County preemptively went to 12 plants before 1220 was a law.
I remember.
And that triggered the moms down there to hire Rob as their attorney, and we're not sure where the status of that case is right now. So I've actually been reaching out to Rob because the patient who I'm working with who wants to challenge the state on 1220 wants to join as a plaintiff in that lawsuit. And so basically, we're still waiting for the results from court on trying to sue the state to say, hey, we want to go back from 36 to 99. The goal of that lawsuit is ultimately to get back to 99 plants.
Yeah, I mean, 99,
because that's the
obviously.
federal threshold, and I believe that if you are a caregiver and you have patients who live in a rural area who do not have any shop to shop in, you're probably going to need 99 plants, especially if you're reliant on using a greenhouse to grow outside in one whole season to support people who have serious medical conditions for a full year. So I believe that the burden should be proving that there were illegal sales or diversion. Having plants is not a freaking crime. It's giving it to kids. It's selling it illegally,
and again,
where they should be charging
somebody.
somebody.
If they said 36 plants was like the limit per person, and then you guys, as a caregiver, you could have 3 of those, but a few less because of the federal thing, and then everybody would be happy. I mean, it's like, okay, it makes sense. At least
it would still be kind of harsh on the 5th and 6th person, because I still object to the caregiver only being able to have 5 patients.
Well, I know.
I think that that's completely unfair in areas where there's one caregiver who has the strains that 10 patients all need.
Yeah, and I think, but if they gave us the other part, I'd be like, all right, I'm happy with that. Fuck it.
I would live with 99 because I can live with the federal threshold and not poke the bear until things get better. But I just feel like we've lost so much ground, and if we're going to have this Bitcoin and this fucking GMO, we have to, where basically you can't get it for I mean, it's just going to make it all of everything that they're doing is just pushing shit back toward the black market. I mean,
give us a rainbow now. We got like 5 minutes for rainbow, right? Rainbow with Jessica.
Good morning, star.
What's the good things that's going to happen? Anything good coming out of this at all? Anything?
Legislatively?
Yeah, just or socially or whatever.
I mean,
anything.
Oh, let me
Give
think.
me anything, please.
Don't be a big baby. I thought you loved me.
I'm gonna move if it's gonna turn like this.
I'm just trying to tell you what I know.
It's over, bro.
What I know.
The dream's over. But there's nothing good coming on. No.
We should expect to receive the results from that cannabis impairment driving test any day now.
Oh, we know that.
But it's you asked me for something good. I had to dig deep.
Not that we know that was happening, but we know that all ends up being like, yeah, you guys are like just gotta drive kind of slow and be careful.
We actually never drove. We did a cognitive simulator, and I did better in the second round. So fuck.
I remember. Yeah, I remember this.
So we talked about that. So,
but it'll all be skewed.
But the report about that should be published soon. So that's, I believe, positive.
So you're going to be a star, basically. Is what you're saying.
No, because I will be an anonymous medical subject. No one will know that I'm
self-serving. No, I'm just kidding.
Everything that I do, Adam, from the minute I wake up, is all about promoting myself and marketing myself.
Oh, I know. You're
and trying to be famous. It's my goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got 5 selfie sticks. People can't see off camera right now.
Let's think of something. I'm trying to think of something else nice to say.
No, I just thought we could end.
No, I mean,
on a good note, like, and be
I don't have any legislative predictions that anything good is going to come from this legislature, because I think that the club's issue has kind of been
obviously we barely said anything about Sessions. So Sessions sucks. Nothing's going to happen with that. He's except for the fact that he doesn't understand how.
He's an emasculated elf man, and there's
Keebler images.
Not a lot to report there. I mean, I think that we do have some interesting stuff coming up. I mean, we have so like if we have to say something nice about someone we don't like, but we were trying to be grown up. Corey Gardner did talk to Sessions. They came to no resolution. Corey Gardner is pretty much like not having patience in people's backs. He just wants the tax money. And I will say this, Marijuana Industry Group, MIG, has been giving money to Republicans running for office.
Wait a minute.
So he's probably just sucking their dick.
One quick question. What was this?
Of course.
What was this thing that Jeter put out about not voting, losing voting rights and all that stuff? Is that true?
Do you see my little arm shortening into T-Rex arms?
Wow, T-Rex. I just awoke in the T-Rex.
No, because that made me so mad. Because everybody shared that shit like it was like the Grail.
I didn't know
and he just made that up. Like, And here I am. Okay, like here's how geeky I am.
He didn't make that up, did he?
No, he did make that up. And he's not even good at making that up. And that's why I was like, I read it and I was like, oh, this is moderately kind of funny, but he doesn't understand how the legislature works well enough to make a joke that is streamlined to be believable. I immediately knew it was wrong because his numbering sequence was off of the way the bills would be introduced.
Oh my God.
And I know, that's how geeky I am. I couldn't enjoy his fucking joke that was actually made me mad because people shared it without fact checking it.
I didn't. Yeah, I made sure I did not share it. But
yeah.
I told it to CC.
Chris is
She's
my
like,
friend.
Can they do that? I was like, I don't think so.
First off, no. Second off, if you knew halfway about how the legislature works, you know they wouldn't get the 1200 series until like fucking March. So yes, that if nothing else, the flaw within the joke was as upsetting to me as the fact that people were ignorant and shared the bullshit. Because people were all like, they were going to Dan Pabone's page and trying to like flog him, which honestly I enjoyed because I really hate Dan Pabone. But
we've noticed.
Yeah, but he is a hateful. He deserves the hate and the wrath of the cannabis community, and I want people to be educated on that fact.
Okay, we can do
my
that.
short little T-Rex arms.
With short T-Rex, everyone come at him with short T-Rex. That'll freak him out, right? Why does everybody do that when they see me? Start getting real self-righteous.
Actually would be super quality.
Yeah.
I did want to hire fat strippers to go in and dance in the legislative building on the last day of the legislature to celebrate his DUI in front of a strip club, but it didn't work out. Anyway, I don't have enough money to blow on fool shit.
I digress. Okay.
But yes, Jetter made up some bullshit. It was kind of like a third of the way funny. It wasn't even really halfway funny. Yeah. And then the people like freaked out, and then they all like went to Dan Pabone's page with pitchforks.
Right.
And
he basically said that
I shared the real shit that Dan Pabone.
We were in the industry.
He said if you hold a badge, so 35,000 people in the state of Colorado, your voting rights would be revoked for holding a badge. Mm-hmm. That's just fucking stupid.
Or you would be not counted.
Yeah, that your vote would be thrown out, which your vote is anonymous. So how the hell you're going to get your vote thrown out? Like that was the part. It was like, there's other ways you could make this joke sort of funny by understanding how the law works, but you're not informed enough to make a good joke. And then you're misleading all these people, and they're all like literally like a day later, I share the thing about the fucking growers wanting to have like the inserted genetic stuff, or like 2 days later, and everyone's like all like, oh, like the few intelligent people that I deal with were sharing it, but like all these people who were all like, oh, I'm going to lose my right to vote, weren't like at all worried about smoking a nanobot or radioactive isotopes. That's all like
that didn't bother him.
Dude, I'm going to do a dab of isotopes.
Hell yeah. That sounds killer.
It's going to be the thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Double dab on the isotopes.
I like Jetter. He is my friend, but he definitely pushed my buttons of rage by...
See, I knew that would be good for
good copy for the
well,
the people out there in the blogosphere who listen to this show, they like when there's controversy and fighting.
Exactly.
And it's not actually fighting because I am friends with the person, but he did piss me off with his.
Speaking of which, there was a lot of controversy on the interwebs these last couple of days, and
everybody's all up in arms. I mean, good news, Vermont. I have some good news.
Oh, finally!
Freaking Vermont, legislatively is passing. My dog does have. He's back. He wants to comment on the show. He's not bad.
I know.
He's actually been incredibly good and laid under the Amish butt-breaking bench.
I know that hurts, huh?
You need some cushions.
It's not my spot.
I mean, for us outdoorsy, active, bony-assed women need a fucking cushion, man.
We will have a new setup at the new spot.
I guarantee you Cece wouldn't sit on this bench for 2 hours. She's even bonier than my ass.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I know.
I'm not even bony. I'm just saying that what little ass I have has been spread out over this brutal wooden bench, as if I was some sort of bad pupil in school.
That's the idea we're trying to get. We're trying to get that vibe out of everybody.
Hat.
Yeah, you got it. So,
Vermont legislatively legalizing marijuana. Positive rainbow.
Positive rainbow. Perfect.
Makes me feel gay.
Well, yeah, you got Bernie as your man there. That's a spot right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like Vermont is the fuzzy teddy bear that we're going to end the show on.
Good, because I like Vermont.
And the handsome dog that no one on the internet can see, but he's not only deeply breathy, he's good looking.
Yeah, love a good breathy. All right. Well, where are you going to be next?
Where am I going to be next?
Yeah. Where can our fans catch you at?
Fans can go with me to the Women's March next Saturday from the Denver Capitol. Thrill-a-minute times, pussy hats, and
really
protest times.
What time's that?
I think it's like 10 to noon.
It's on a what?
10 to noon.
On a what? Saturday?
Saturday the 20th.
Cool. I'll bring Nick.
The anniversary
I'll
put
a giant thing on his head.
It's the anniversary of the inauguration protest thing.
Cool.
And where else will I be? On the 22nd. Hey, everybody, on the 22nd, I'll be at the CDPHE for the Retail Science Cannabis Advisory Panel.
Now, that sounded like an official plug of all plugs right there.
Hey, man, you want to come out and be a super fan, come to these meetings. On the 25th, even more exciting, actually action for super fans.
Super fan action. Here we go.
Court support for the court case from
court support.
Mark Peterson and Ron Niehaus, who I've talked about before, the caregivers who were involved in the Jack Split case.
Can we just do the pie in the face thing like everybody used to do back in the day?
I don't think we should do it to Mark and Ron. They're good people.
No, but there's
or to Rob Corey, who's their attorney.
No, Rob.
But maybe
Rob at one point. But no, what about the other guy, the douchebags? Come on, douche guys, not the lawyers.
That would be the Jeffco County prosecution.
Do it.
Yeah, I would totally endorse that.
Come on.
I am anyone who wants to put a pie in the face of the Jeffco County prosecutor will get
somebody. Come on, that's
like a hand job from me or something.
It's always a.
Don't look at me like
that.
You
might get shot nowadays, but you know, or at least tased. Probably you get tased.
Right in the nutsack.
Like as you hit the guy in the face with the pie, be like.
Aaron K. out there listening now, Pie Man of New York City. If only we had you here with your industrial nutsack to fucking handle this pie administration. I don't know what to tell you about that, but yes, there is that coming up. The 25th, the pretrial motion.
Coming down from the hills and all these things. Just coming down.
I probably will be down in between those things for other things that haven't been posted on the legislative calendar, because all these bills have been introduced, but none of them have been assigned to a hearing yet. So I will be definitely going down to speak out against genetic modification of cannabis without any protections for consumers. Hooray, America!
Yeah, that's like
the
worst sounding thing ever.
If that passes, I'm gonna. I have some plans. I can't actually say them because then they won't be a surprise.
You'll be like Madonna. Like, I'm going to blow up the White House. That's close.
No, I have other plans that would be more...
Slow death, more slow and painful.
No, I don't plan to actually kill anybody, but, you know, I'm visionary, as you're well aware. And,
good. No details, please.
No.
All right, well...
that's where a lot of these white supremacists that kill people go wrong. They talk too much on the internet.
Those guys. Always getting it wrong. Well, let's end on that note. Killing people, white supremacists killing people, not getting it right.
I'm just saying.
Just listen to the show. Maybe you'll figure out what that all meant about anything. Did that have anything to do with anything? No, I don't know. It was just
it was just me
major brain fart.
Saying shit that I shouldn't say on fucking any recorded thing.
It's fine.
Matt's going to go over there and
be scanned one day.
Like cut out that several minutes where I'm just like...
One time I got kicked out of a bank because of JDR. You know that? Like I went in and I was there for already a couple of years. And
it's all Tim's fault.
Well, I was there for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden I got kicked out, and I went back to the one guy that was really cool at the bank to me, and I was like, "Hey, do you know why?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm gonna go look on the computer thing and find out." And he went on the computer, and he came back, and he goes, "Were you ever on like a show or something like that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "A radio show or something?" I was like, "What?" The John Doe radio show? I was like, yes. He's like, well, something about that. And I was like, what? Like,
well, whatever bank you were with were way more on it. Chase was way more on it than KeyBank because I was on Tim's show several times during my duration.
Well, I don't think it should have been a normal thing, but I
mean, I'm just making light of the whole.
I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Although no, I was on Fox News about cannabis for pets, and I went into my bank like 2 days later, and the teller was like, "You look super familiar," and I was like, "Yeah, you don't know who I am. No, I have no idea." She's like, "You look like this lady who was on the news," and I'm like, "Oh, I must have missed that. I don't have a TV at home. Thanks for telling me about it."
Right.
It was just really weird because I did not want to lose my bank account. So
No, you're like, definitely not me on the news. I doubt it. So, all right, well, Thank you, Jessica, for coming through. Thank you, MTI, for coming through. Maybe your
I
wife,
apologize
Cece,
for pushing the show so late.
Oh, I know, you're the worst.
Listeners.
Okay, we had today was a test day. First time on YouTube. I think it went nicely.
I think it went well.
It looks good. The chat is really
Hi,
colorful
YouTube.
and exciting.
We got to like 115 listeners today.
That's good. That's a nice number.
I shared
Most of
that I
us
was
are-
going to be on the show. I'm sure they
that was
all
a
were
good
tuning
98
in.
of them. 98
Yeah.
came from her for sure. We're down to 70, so I'd say that would be like
Yeah, they tuned in for
Yeah.
Nat from Humboldt. They were
yeah,
like
Nat
oh.
was way more popular than you. Thank you, Nat, for coming through for Humble Seeds, and thank you, James, for popping in. Next
I
week,
missed James.
Yeah, next week we're
That
gonna have
makes
our
me
shit.
sad.
We're gonna get all excited because now we have this whole new platform to play with, and I think MTI is gonna go home and read like all sorts of cool stuff and be like, "Wow, dude, you can do that. We can do this. Can we do that? I didn't realize we could do that." And so we're gonna be all up in everyone's ear because it'll be like so many.
I'll check in the next 3 or 4 weeks and let you know what's developed. I'm sure
Thanks.
something will come up
Oh,
with
of course you
clubs,
will.
and
Yeah, of
we'll
course.
keep the people updated on that.
Some horror show is gonna happen, I'm sure.
Hey,
No problem.
I believe everything is going to be legislatively fixed and things are all going to be better.
Always reporting the horror shows with Jessica.
And it's-
one day it'll be all.
If there has been something good,
Mhm.
we've tried to bring that to the table.
It's okay. We will. We will.
I brought in like all that info about those studies and how
Oh,
cool that was,
that was-
and that was good news.
all right.
I try to bring in at least one good thing every time, but most of the time, what I focus on is trying to fix the problem, not blow smoke up people's ass. I don't even travel with a short length of hose.
Not enough hose. Not
Not
enough
enough
hose. Never enough
Never,
hose.
never enough hose to get the smoke up your ass, my friend.
Never enough hose. Well,
Because I'm just
on
not getting that close to the
on
ass cheek.
that incredibly good ending. Never enough hose to blow smoke up your ass on the Adam Dunn Show. See you guys next week. Peace.
I always keep it super classy when I
Practically
come.
every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden songs
This
and
is
messages.
a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it